Welcome, you guys. It is hotter than hell here in Texas. I wish I were in Colorado. So I feel like I need to be incognito today. I feel like I'm going to be in trouble, and the little devil is fun. So just go ahead. It'll be fine. And the little angel's going, I wouldn't do that if I were you. That is not a good idea. And the little devil says, listen to her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. It'll be fine. People want to talk about these things. And the angel is going, no, they don't want to talk about these things. So I'm nervous. I'm scratching my palm. I'm nervous because I'm thinking, do I really want to do this? But I do want to do it. I do, damn it. I do. All right. All right, people. How are you doing? It needs some tweaking. Okay. But we are fixing to just throw the hell down. I'm done. I am so tired of censoring myself and being afraid to upset anybody or to talk about things that people are just going to be like, I can't believe she said this or I can't believe she said that. And it is, you have no idea how frustrating it is to sit back and watch people doing channels where they're just stealing the content of other people and they're just playing it on their channels. Or like, I'm Jules and you guys are the original gems. You remember all that? It's raining gems. Remember that? Yeah. So it's not working. It's not working for me to be perfect and be censoring what I say and being careful, and it's not working. It's not working. And I'm done. I'm tired of it. So I am going to be the real Jules of Thought, and I am going to, I don't know, say what I want to say. And then we'll see what happens. So we will see what happens. So today we're going there. All right. Okay. So first thing I need to do is put up, I hope you guys are doing well. Clearly the heat has gotten to me. Clearly the heat has gotten to me, and I have just decided enough's enough. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. Be done with all this foolish, being politically careful. And here's one issue. No one cares how you No one cares how you present your information. They don't care about the content of your information. I think I think it's more of like it's sort of like a Game of Thrones, right? It's sort of like when you're gonna like the Astros are gonna play, and even though you're the only one watching the game, you do have to put on your Astros, baseball jersey and your Astros socks, and you have to scream and yell at the TV because that's what makes it fun, right? So I'm just gonna be me, and people who want to be, have fun, they'll find us, won't they? All right, so here we go. Let's see where my first. Okay, so what this is look, this is a horrific. This was an absolute 100% one of the worst moments that I've ever seen unfold on a television. The only I think the only time that I can remember ever being as disturbed emotionally, touched, I guess, was 9/11 when the towers fell and the aftermath of that. And there in so many ways, the visual imagery from what happened in Maui was exactly what we saw on 9/11. I can't explain it other than just the sheer amount of heat that each of these horrible events generated, right? Both the level of fire, temperature in the fire was just unlike really anything we really are accustomed to seeing. And I think, when it happened on 9/11 in New York, you've got two massive skyscrapers that fall to the ground, and there's jet fuel that is involved, and there's understanding, there's a level of comprehension, the amount of energy that it took, the amount of energy that was created when those towers fell. You can certainly comprehend the level of heat that was generated just as a matter of energy, right? This you can't. This doesn't equate, right? It's so hard to make sense of. We are getting many different stories. I do think that ultimately, in terms of the catalyst, I think it was a terrible, it was like the perfect storm, right? It was these winds that were rough. However, there was a lot of underbrush that had not been, burned and carefully controlled. The pineapple fields were abandoned, and the grasses, the things that were brought in from the pineapple farmers, it was dole that abandoned these fields. And so they all just turned to hay. It was just kindling. It was a fire that was going to happen. And those of you that have land, or you're in you're in an area with parks and whatnot, you recognize that there is something critical that must be done to keep your land safe. And you say, well, land has been around since the beginning of time. True. So why do we have to do controlled burns? Doesn't Mother Nature take care of that kind of untended wild acreage? Yes, it does. You just witnessed it. So the reason that farmers and ranchers that have large lots and whatnot, or acres and acres, hundreds or thousands of acres, the reason that they do controlled burns at very specific points in the year, they will dig and build burns around the BERM. They will dig like little little canals, so that they can control that the grass that they're burning doesn't jump to the next side, to the next level. And it helps the farmers, the ranchers, or the government. It helps them keep the fire, number one, corralled in one specific area, and then it allows the farmer and the rancher to burn out all of that dead, dry kindling, the dried grasses, hay. It lets them burn it up, and then all you've got then that comes up out of it is pretty new green, wet grass. That charred grass will then go back down into the earth to replenish it, and it will renew it. And you can plant crops there, or more hay, or whatever your alfalfa, whatever you're growing. And so in many, charring your fields, doing a controlled burn, it's science in action. You're replenishing the soil. You're making the soil healthy again. You are reducing the chances of there being a catastrophic burn that kills people, livestock, burns houses to the ground. So you're averting a horrible disaster like what Maui is now experiencing. And it helps the farmer and the rancher plan and have these burns during periods of time where there's plenty of water available. The air is cooler. It's less likely that that you're going to get a runaway, flame. That has been stopped for all intents purposes. The government has been heavily influenced, and people don't want there to be controlled burns. They say it pollutes the air, among other things. They don't want to go in and cull out trees that would not be commercially viable. They just say, its natural state is the best. Well, I'm going to ask you guys this question. Well, I want you to go without a bath for 1 month. And then I want you to say, is my natural state the best? No bath, no brushing your teeth, no brushing your hair, no shaving, no Chanel No. 5, little spritz on your neck. Is your natural state actually the best? Or can we use, better living through modern science and enhance our natural state, right? So this is, you can't, I know there is this, there's this desire, I think, or not a desire, but a natural, I think people need to have a scapegoat. I think when things go so dramatically wrong, we don't want to, we meaning the human race, all of us, we don't want to believe that a nightmare of this proportion could happen in natural circumstances. We don't want to believe that, because if we were to believe that, then we would all be at risk. It would be, we would be living in a Stephen King nightmare, so to speak. This knee-jerk reaction to say, well, it's your fault, or it's your fault. Well, did they do this right? Did they do that right? And this is not coming from people that are, wanting to be hateful or mean or bad. It's coming from a natural, if you are an adult, then you have a natural awareness that when you are conscientious and you take care of a situation, you're paying attention to the details, then much of that ends up, you are averting disaster. People that are very low in conscientiousness They don't tend to pay attention to the details, and they very often people low in conscientiousness report higher or highest levels of depression and anxiety. And it's not because it's something that is innate. It's not like a genetic flaw. It's because they're low in conscientiousness. They're not taking care of the details. They're not paying their electricity bill on time. They forget their water thing. They overspend their money. And then they have a disaster because their electricity gets turned off, or they get a foreclosure notice because they didn't pay their mortgage. So being high or low in conscientiousness as a personality factor can definitely lead to experiences that cause you to feel very anxious or very depressed and a lot of regret. The wonderful thing is that you can change that. Now then, in this particular situation, because I would say the majority of people are conscientious, when we have something, a disaster of this epic proportion happen, that adult in you kicks in and goes, wait a minute, how could this ever happen? My God in heaven, who dropped the ball? Someone didn't pay the mortgage. Someone didn't do what they were supposed to do, and so it's got to be their fault. And that's sort of what already began before this fire. That the fire started in the morning. Then they said, oh, we have it under control. No, they didn't, but they were out of water. And so then later on, when the winds picked up in the late afternoon, it fired it all back up again to epic proportions. So those people that are high conscientiousness, they're looking for an explanation. They're saying something went terribly wrong here. What was it? What was it? And I'm a country girl. I grew up down on the farm, and I understand what controlled burns are and why we do them. You got to do them if you want to live in a safe area, So I thought, well, maybe this would be interesting if we listen to the press conference. And I'm going to warn you. My little new intro that I just did, I'm going to call it my drama intro. On the days that intro plays, you're going to know, Jules is doing some drama today. We're going to watch some drama, okay? But again, remember, this is the problem of the fire, and is there someone that can be blamed? All right. So I will tell you this. Let me go. We're still waiting on two people. There's number one. We're waiting on one more guy, the man of the hour. Where is the man of the hour? He's still not there. Bueller. There he is. That's him, the guy that's knocking over the American flag. Here is your scapegoat. All right. I'm not going to blame everything on him. I'm going to go all the way back to the pineapple fields, and I'm going to say, why in the world did you think that it was better to let Mother Nature decide on when she was going to burn down all that dead grass? Why didn't you just listen to your scientist? So that's scapegoat number one for me. But this guy right here, he has now resigned. He says that he has health problems, and it has nothing to do with the fire or this press conference.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today.
Now then, this tall guy right here, this is the mayor. And this little fella right here, this is the governor. And he's got little man syndrome. She is telling everybody to be nice.
Always that we are the state.
Just like my grandma used to say, hey, y'all quit that. Y'all settle down. Y'all be sweet. Be sweet. No, don't talk ugly. God don't like ugly. That's what she's saying, but she's doing it with a lot more flair because it's in Hawaiian, so it's beautiful.
Of aloha.
Aloha.
So we ask kindly that you please operate under the values of aloha, which is extending respect and kindness to each other. Questions and answers will follow promptly after the speakers conclude their remarks. Without further ado, I would like to invite Governor Josh Green.
The governor. Governor.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Here, this is day 8. Every day, I've shared this with you before. We're just a little bit more heartbroken because we do have to report that more of our loved ones have been confirmed lost.
Absolutely
deceased.
devastating.
Know that our hearts are with every family. We're going to have 7 speakers today.
I don't know that unless you are really following this on the daily, you may not realize yet. I think yesterday the count was up to like 114, I think. However, there's a more notable number, and that number is thousands with an S. There are thousands of people missing. They've only said 114 confirmed that they know who they are, but there are thousands missing. So let that sit. I do think this is going to turn into another 9/11. I think the amount of the amount of loss of life is catastrophic. It's terrifying.
Try to give you a full update. Lot to cover. So please know that Jamie and our hearts are with all of those families who are here in Maui and who are suffering. So we'll start with where we are in general. 110 individuals
I think
have been confirmed deceased.
Now.
We'll get some details about this from our distinguished leaders in police and fire. 38% of the territory has been covered. They are adding a significant force on the ground. So they are now up to 30 dogs. They'll move to 40. There's now going to be another about 225 relief individuals coming. That's 3 teams of 75. The capacity is increasing continuously to make sure that we can go to every corner of the disaster site. So we share these numbers with you so you can have perspective, but one individual by one individual, it makes us, like I said, heartbroken. And specifically to the families that we have been able to identify the individuals, Mr. Dykeman, Jantok, the families of those individuals, that's where our hearts break. And we know there's going to be a lot of stories like this. So we're also adding capacity to bring in experts that can work on DNA, some experts from California as well to support our teams. So that's where we are as far as the numbers go right now. The chief will give you details about fire. I will tell you also that we've done a few significant things in just the last day or two. As you know, we opened the road up yesterday. I gave that order after conferring with the mayor and his team. We felt it was necessary after 7 days to begin to restore some psychological normalcy for people as they traveled. We still plead for people to go when they need to, not when they want to, as the chief said very eloquently to us right before we came. As you know, the main hours are 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Please do what you can to limit travel if you don't need to be out there, because it will make it more efficient for people who do have needs at that time. Also, you can foresee there will be some small car accidents otherwise, and we don't want to get locked down again because of that. So we wanted to honor the people with that access, of course. We're going to continue to limit access.
Okay. They instituted a placard system where, let's say you wanted to go to the east end of the island, you wanted to leave Lahaina and go somewhere else. You had to go stand in line, get a little card, sort of like a hall pass. Get a little hall pass so that you can get out on the road and go to another part of the island. Out of nowhere, after this press conference, like 2 days after this press conference, they just quit doing placards, no explanation. And what that means is they just pretty much told people, stay where you are, you're going nowhere. And the military, that they were not able to get supplies into the area. And so a bunch of normal people like me and you that had boats, like people that had like, doing fishing excursions or scuba or just going out in catamarans, just people that were living off of the vacation, industry, from other islands, from the other side of Maui. They just got in their boats and started going around all these restrictions that were being put in place by the government. They went around the restrictions, were out in the water, and they're bringing supplies into the people. And the people are meeting them down at the dock and helping them unload. And then if people want to leave, they get on the boat to these strangers, people they don't know, and they take them around to another side. They did it. The same exact kind of thing happened during 9/11. All the boats responded that were anywhere close, and they just started showing up and just picking people up and taking them across, to wherever, they were going, just to get them off of Manhattan. So that night that all this was happening and there was fire and whatnot, the boats responded that night, coming out, trying to get some of these people out of the water. They have quite a tale to tell, that there were that many boats were loose from their moorings and they were floating out to sea, but they were ablaze. They were on fire. There was no people in them. They were just on fire. They said it was so bizarre and eerie looking. It was like ghost ships. And not only did you see these boats that were on fire and they were floating loose, in the harbor, there were these giant balls of fire that were just coming from nowhere, just headed out and hitting people that were in the water. This was a curious event. Curious. It's very weird, y'all.
That's in the impact zone.
So don't forget the placards.
There's, again, like I said earlier, some toxins that we worry about, and we're going to rapidly go through that area. They're working very diligently, and that's why we're...
Okay, so now they're saying you can't come to the west side of the island because there's toxins that we're worried about. Good people that were out in the ocean standing around with little children, babies, moms and dads. They're all standing around out there in the water for up to 7 hours. And then finally, when the road, the concrete, the asphalt has cooled down and whatnot, and they can come out of the water, some of them have second, third degree burns on their feet simply because it took hours and hours and hours and hours and hours for the asphalt to cool. So these people come out of the water, they're just looking for somewhere to sit. There's no houses. There's one lady that had taken up refuge in a bathroom, like a public, at a park. There's no place to go. And so now this guy's saying, oh, don't go to the west side. Don't go over there because there's toxins. Well, if you're worried about the toxins, Governor, then explain why you stopped the placards. Why are you keeping people there? Why aren't you letting them out, letting them go wherever they want to go? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know. It's really strange. But just keep watching. This is the craziest. Things are going to get so weird during this press conference.
We're super augmenting the staff and the team. A couple other things I wanted to share with you. The FEMA team has swelled to nearly 500 people. We're at 492 earlier today. The Red Cross at 270. We're going to give you Red Cross numbers. And we have the leader of the Red Cross here today with us. There's a formidable military presence here also, because there have been some reports, mostly on social media, of concerns about looting or violence. I'll just be candid. Please do not believe what you see on social media for the most part. What we have seen bear out in reality is not significant violence and not significant looting.
Sir, wait a minute. The first thing that anyone knew that this horrific nightmare was happening is because there were people standing in the water trying to go live. Or a boat had picked them up and they were back on the other side of the island and they're on social media and they're weeping and crying and they're saying, we need help. You guys don't understand. Maui is like turned into like hell on earth, literally hell. Something bad is happening. Now this guy, this joker, is saying, don't believe what you hear on social media. Really, sir? Why? Why would that be? Do you think every person on social media lies? Is that what you're trying to tell the citizens? It's incredible to me. It's incredible that at this particular press conference, this guy, this joker, this governor is saying, oh, don't believe everything you hear on social media. Okay, I have a question for you guys, okay? Sincere question. We watch every kind of content there is, right? Like you can find it on YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Every kind of social media imaginable. Do you think you're having a hard time figuring out which information is good, solid, sanctioned news, or people that are just being trolls, or people that are political ideologues and they're pushing their own version of things, or people are just insane? We can figure this out, Governor. We can, really.
Probably because they're just too afraid to deal with the chief of police when he yells at all of us.
No, so probably not. Probably not afraid.
The force is there, though, for safety. And our military leaders who are here, they're just our neighbors, dressed slightly differently when they're on detail. But they are able to keep us safe. A couple other things. People have wondered about land. That's come up on several occasions.
Listen.
My intention from start to finish is to make sure that no one is victimized from a land grab, that we do not suffer predation against those who are suffering. So I've instructed the Attorney General to work toward a moratorium on any transactions. There's some legal challenges there. We're going to push right through those and make sure that people don't lose their land here in Hawaii. That is central. I've been speaking to leaders all across our state. And
this is the very soul who came out and said at a park where they were doing a little talk to the people there in the community that had lost everything. That they didn't yet know what they were going to do with the land. They didn't know if they were going to compensate landowners, property owners, or if they would just take the land and turn it into a big park that everybody could enjoy. He just didn't know yet. But what if that's your house? What if that's your house, your lot, where your house used to be, and it's gone? Aren't you going to want to keep your land and rebuild? I got a feeling people that moved to Maui, or you grew up there, your family is from Maui or Hawaii, and that's where you live because you love it, right? Why is this man talking like it's his job to decide what to do with the land? The land is not free. The land is not yours. The land doesn't belong to the government. The land belongs to the individual families that have either had it in their families for generations upon generations, or people willingly moved there because it was quite beautiful and it was relaxing and that was home. It's their decision, Governor, to make a decision what they want to do. It's not your decision. It's just when I heard this, I thought, there are people, thousands of people that are horrified. They don't know where their children are. They don't know where their children are. They don't give a damn right now that their house is gone. They want to know where their kids are. And he's at the park where people are trying to get information, critical survival information. And now here, I've told my office, to make it so we don't have any land grabs. Why? You want to make sure that you go in there and you get it at top dollar? You want to make sure you go in there and get a good deal for the state of Hawaii or the developers you're working with, maybe the island project? Leave their land alone. help them find their kids, and then show them love and support, and stop trying to capitalize off such a horrific thing.
It's important to everyone. What that means is we're going to make sure that there are no transactions that take advantage of our people, and we're going to give you some definitive answers by Friday about how hard I can lock that down. That doesn't mean we don't want people to come and invest in Hawaii and travel to Hawaii away from the impact zone. We'll talk about that in a moment.
That's what you call
what it means is
Texas
people are right now
two-step.
traumatized. Please don't approach them with an offer to buy land. Please don't approach their families to tell them that they're going to be better off if they make a deal, because we're not going to allow it. And then
Yeah, bet you
between
won't.
myself and I'm sure the mayor, we're not going to allow people to get permits. Forgive me for speaking for mayor, but I know he's a tough guy. We're not going to allow people to take advantage. And it's going to be
Okay, so even if a family, here's the other side, flip side of the coin. Even if a family wants to sell their plot of land, let's say they're already thinking about going back to the mainland before this fire ever happened. They're already considering that, right? And they want to get out from underneath it and go home or whatever. Now, little Mr. I'm for the people politician says, oh, well, you know what? Even if if you're a developer and you are able to purchase land from people, even if you do that, we, the long arm of the government, we are not going to issue any permits. So you won't be allowed to do anything with your new little plot of land. This man is a megalomaniac. I'm sorry, he's out of control. He thinks he's going to control who buys the land. And if someone does happen to get around his rules and they do buy the land, then he's going to control whether they can do anything with their own piece of property or not. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, his people in his state have been, they're in shock, like it's a war zone. It looks like a war zone. And he is talking about capitalizing on their loss and their trauma. It's just wait. This isn't the bad part yet. This is not bad at all. This was my own personal, I was aghast that a politician would openly tell people, I am from the government and I am here to control you. I was surprised by that.
a very significant amount of time anyway in the recovery before building could be done. So don't make the mistake of testing us in that space, please.
Testing
A couple
him.
other points. The president's coming. The president is coming on Monday. He's been very gracious. A couple things President Biden has done from the outset. After I touched down, 20 minutes later, he signed our emergency declaration on day 2 of the crisis. That enabled us to get all this FEMA support and people on the ground, or at least coming very quickly. And then this morning, I believe at 3:30 in the morning, Hawaii Standard Time, I spoke with him again. And he was able to, after I sent a quick little letter over to him at 1 a.m., immediately approve 100% reimbursement for much of what we do. That is a nuanced discussion, but what that means is that hundreds of millions of dollars additionally will come from the federal government that won't have to come from those who are suffering right now. And that's a very important thing. I can tell you it's going to be a long and costly recovery, but much of that work will be done here with our local people. That's going to be another priority for us, using local contractors to the best of our ability so the people who need jobs can get them. We will also form a works program so people can get trained in these jobs going forward. That will also help our young people, many of whom have been displaced. So it's important. So the president will be here.
There are thousands of people missing. Thousands of people missing. And he's talking to the president about buying and selling victims' land and starting work programs to retrain people to different jobs. There are thousands of people missing. Am I the one that's in the wrong here? I'm curious. Is this just me being weird, or does this seem like the most tone deaf press conference you've ever seen? And I really do want you to tell the truth. Like, if you think I'm completely 100% out of line, then I'd really like you to educate me, explain it. Because when I heard this, I just thought, my God, what if that was my baby that was missing? Would I care that they were going to do a job retraining program right now, today, 3 days after the fire? No. That was when this press conference happened. Not now. It's been much like a week, going toward a week and a half. But at the time that this press conference went on, it was like 3-5 days since the fire. So man can have a say, but God has the last say. Heavenly Clouds, thank you for subscribing. I saw you said that a while ago. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Insurance agents are now telling homeowners they are not covered due to zoning errors. I would lawyer up like a big dog. Finding out after the fact is immoral. Absolutely critters. Land and insurance issues. Lawyers are telling owners not to sign any kind of paperwork. Absolutely. With the tomfoolery that was going on surrounding this, shoot, I wouldn't be signing nothing. No. My husband would be going through breaking every pen we had. Don't you sign anything. So it's like an episode of the Twilight Zone. Absolutely. Anybody take issue with me? Hey, Daisy Jones. Hey, Angel. Katie. I know, Katie. Ugh, it's terrible. Okay. Nobody's telling me I'm in the wrong. That surprises me. Hey, Meezer Mom. Callie, welcome. Big ups. How you doing? Yeah. Okay, let's keep on because this gets crazy. We're not even at the crazy part, people.
Monday, we'll spend time viewing the site. First Lady will be here as well, and we'll be able to give him additional understanding about Hawaii. But like I said, he's been very gracious. Last couple of things I'd like to mention are electricity and power. We're down to about 2,000 individuals. They're still without power. It's a little bit difficult to give you an absolute number because some of the structures are still...
Excuse me, sir. You're down to 2,000 people without electricity, but how many of the houses were destroyed? Like 90% of them, right?
Counted in that number, that tally, and obviously power can't run to them. So that's something that is improving. By the end of the month, much of that power will be restored, but there is some very substantial rebuild that has to go with transformers. So that's going to be important and challenging. And we feel, at least all the people that I've spoken to on our team, that if you're without power, we want to also offer you support just as though you are.
Okay, so Dave says, thank you, Dave. Dave says, specifically, it is not tone deaf. I think he hears the tone, but he's following the specific agenda of his crooked bosses that are controlling him. I think he knows what he's doing, and he sees what people want. Which people, though, Dave? Like, he's trying to give his bosses what they want, or the people that have been decimated in this community? Look, y'all, make no mistake about it. It's devastating for the citizens that live there, and they were harmed, and they were killed, and they lost family members. These people have been, overnight, their lives were turned upside down, 100%. However, there's a tertiary level of impact as well. The boat captains that brought their boats over and were trying to rescue people, they couldn't get to all of them, or there were many that were already dead in the water. They are dealing with extraordinary levels of trauma right now. Extraordinary. This is not just the families that were hurt or just the business owners. The people that have tried to come in and help, they too are being, they're all saying it's never seen anything like this. Never even knew anything was like this was possible. There's something about this that is not right. He's giving his bosses what they want while hearing and seeing what the community wants, and he is deliberately ignoring it. Well, I'm going to say this, Dave. I'm glad that you said it that way. You said it better. Here's the reason why I'm saying I'm glad you said that. Because later in this press conference, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see good old-fashioned defensiveness, right? he was defensive. So's the tall guy in the back. They're defensive. And it just about got away from him, didn't it? So your explanation that perhaps they're carrying with them a little small amount of guilt or big guilt, possibly, not because they themselves had anything to do, they didn't cause this horrible thing to happen. But like Dave said, if you're a politician, as both of these men are, if you're a politician, you have a much bigger political structure around you. I would imagine that the big DNC bosses are on the phone with him. They're trying to control this narrative, I think. I think Dave is right. Did you hear the word coincidence? Police commissioner in charge of this mess. Oh, I'm going to get to that, Kathy Meyer. Yep. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not really that different from what she's saying, in my opinion. No. It absolutely makes sense. And I'm glad you said it that way, because in a few minutes, we're going to see what it looks like when people may not be feeling very good about what they're doing.
Isolated and lost your home. So reach out to us, contact FEMA, contact Red Cross, as we've explained, so we can get you resources and get you into a place that's safe if you're suffering without power. Finally, our housing program has become quite robust. That's through the generosity of many. We're over 1,000 hotel rooms now that are available for those who have been displaced.
Good.
For those who are working on the response, for those who are going to come and do major rebuild. So over 1,000 hotel rooms. We're spending time with those individuals. They're very grateful to the hotels that have stepped up. This is not going to be any cost to people. We also have over 1,000 Airbnbs that are going to be available. And we're making plans right now for the long haul, for the long reconstruction. We'll be bringing some new ideas to bear over time so that we don't have to take any housing away from our local people as we rebuild. So again, mahalo for your understanding. Mahalo for being so gracious with our first responders.
So you don't have to take housing away from your locals?
I've heard only positive stories about just that love and respect for everyone that's been working hard. So mahalo for that. Aloha.
Weird. Very weird.
Mahalo, Governor. Next, Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson.
Aloha mai kako, Belinda mai pakahiapa. Welcome to each and every one of you. I want to start off by pointing out why I'm wearing red this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. School started today, and many of our Lahaina Luna students and Lahaina school students have been welcomed into other campuses throughout Maui. One of our two West Maui high schools, Lahaina Luna, but the one most affected, sent its students to other campuses across Maui. Many of these students are survivors of the fires, and some of them lost families, some of them lost homes, many of them lost friends. But the high schools welcoming them today here across the island were asked to wear red by the DOE to show support for these students, as that's their school colors, as they were traveling to, of course, a new school district. So I wanted to honor that solidarity today, showing that unified support among students. And so again, I wear the Lahaina Luna school colors. I also want to extend my deepest mahalo to all the campuses who have welcomed our Lahaina students and who will continue to embrace them. Last night, we opened access through the Malaya area to allow residents to go back to their hometown, as the governor has mentioned, through his orders, and as well working with our Maui Police Department and our National Guard. Emergency responders and workers are also allowed to go through. And again, as of 6 a.m. this morning, the general public. I caution you, as the governor already has, to please drive carefully in those areas. Be mindful of the work crews, be mindful of the debris that still exists on the roadways, and again, the infrastructure work that's being done to restore our west side. Cooperation, consideration, and respect is what's needed the most for West Maui residents who are trying to make their way back. The area of Lahaina Town continues to be off limits, and you'll see that as you go out there. You'll also witness some of the dust screens that are also being put in place. Again, not just because it's unsafe as a result of the burned structures, the ash, the poles, and the debris to the air, but most importantly, because we continue to search for loved ones who are unaccounted for. We know the community wants us to move quicker, and we will continue to get better at what we're doing. And again, sending more volunteers and more workers to the west side. Our people have gone through so much in this tragedy. To offer relief to those homes that were destroyed, I'm authorizing waiving property taxes for this year, and that includes structures as well as land. The taxes that have already been paid will be refunded to those families, again, to help them to regain, using that to help them recover through this tragedy. Yep. We have a housing task force that's been assembled with federal agency support, And then that team is working to develop solutions as we continue to rebuild. Food distribution centers continue at the Lahaina Gateway, Napili Plaza, and Napili Park. With the help of so many volunteers at these centers and at the distribution hub, handling those donations at the former Sears store at the Queen Kahumanu Center, our community and our county together have been able to offer relief to those in need. I visited our shelters and I've seen the devastation firsthand in Lahaina town. With our residents now being allowed to return to the West Side, I will be hosting a community meeting to introduce our state and federal partners supporting us through this crisis. The details on the community meeting will be held on the West Side.
What are you going to do? You can have a party? That's so sweet of you. When all these people get to come back home to the death of their lives, you're going to host the state and federal supporters. That would be your politicians, Mr. and Mrs. America. I'm thinking I would not want to see them, right? Would you rather they bring in priests and psychologists and doctors and build structures, bring in some trailers, some campers, right? Why are we bringing politicians exactly? Oh, I know. It's an election season coming up.
Announced tomorrow. We're still working on a location and getting notice out there. Of course, everyone here is invited to join us at that time. Yesterday and today, the governor shared the names of those families, whose loved ones were lost in the fire. Our prayers of comfort are with those families.
Absolutely.
There are many stories starting to surface as we make our way through each day, and daily I'm humbled and reminded of the power of compassion and hope. For example, we've had 682 volunteers, community volunteers, not Red Cross, not FEMA, but our own citizens who've been working at the War Memorial Gymnasium shelter. They're starting to break down as people are starting to leave the shelter, and that's being turned over to the Red Cross entirely. But my thanks and appreciation go out to each of those volunteers. A few
and they are traumatized.
Home. Strangers helping strangers, families helping families. In the days ahead, there will be more extraordinary stories we'll reveal to you of resilience and things that make us stronger together.
Yep.
Mahalo.
Mahalo, Mayor Bissen. Next, Herman Andaya, Administrator, Maui Emergency Management Agency.
This is the man of the hour. He's your scapegoat.
Hello, my name is Herman Andaya, Administrator of the Maui Emergency Management Agency. My thoughts and prayers continue to be with.
Okay, who is detecting some discomfort in body language? Let's go back a little bit. I want you to watch. Let me see. Think right here. Now, when he steps back away and she comes up, she introduces the scapegoat. I want you to keep your eye on these two guys. Watch their faces and watch their body language.
They're starting to break down as people are starting to leave the shelter, and that's being turned over to the Red Cross entirely. But my thanks and appreciation go out to each of those volunteers. A few who live in my own home. Strangers helping strangers, families helping families. In the days ahead, there will be more extraordinary stories we'll reveal to you of resilience and things that make us stronger together. Mahalo.
Watch the body language now.
Mahalo, Mayor Bissen. Next, Herman Andaya, Administrator, Maui Emergency Management Agency.
Hello, my name is Herman Andaya, Administrator of the Maui.
It's like a hand symphony, isn't it? Or ballet, like a hand ballet. You watch them and it's like straight to their face. When people are nervous, when something happens and they're thinking, I don't want to be here, this is not what I want to be a part of, their hands will go up. It's protection, it's comfort, right? What? I'm going to make it. Yeah, I've seen creators do slow motion. Let's do it in slow motion. Now, here we go.
Herman Andaya, Administrator, Maui Emergency Management Agency.
Watch them. Just keep your eyes on the two in the back. Oh, shit. Here we go.
Hello.
What?
My name is
What did you say,
Herman.
Mayor? What did the mayor say? Let's see what the mayor said. Ooh. Oh my goodness, look at their mouths. Look at his mouth and his mouth. They're like, not saying anything, but I'm thinking so much, and it would be so bad if I said it. The body language, the look on their face is incredible. Look how tight his mouth is. Both. This guy's just like, no, I don't want to listen to this. It's going to be painful.
Hello. My name is Herman and Di.
All right, let me get it back to normal speed. Is it so, people are so interesting, aren't they? They're so interesting. All right, here we go. Sound if you're wearing headphones, be careful.
Administrator of the Maui Emergency Management Agency. My thoughts and prayers continue to be with all of those who have been impacted by this tragedy. We too, within our extended Mima family, have been impacted by loss of loved ones, homes, and property. So we grieve with you and are fully committed to see all of us
Sad.
get through this together. The Mima Emergency Operations Center remains at level 1, full activation, operating 24/7 in response to this unprecedented incident, leveraging the coordinated efforts of our whole of government, whole community team of partners. We are working tirelessly with a focus on survivors and families of those who have been lost or who continue to be unaccounted for. Our objectives during the operational period are reflected in the missions that we've been working on during this time, including sheltering, feeding missions, points of distribution, family assistance centers, the restoration of utilities, medical missions in West Maui, search and recovery, identification of loved ones, the Disaster Assistance Response Center, the security of the impacted area, damage assessments, debris management, and donation management. We are profoundly thankful for the efforts and assistance of all participating partners at all levels of government, along with our private sector and community-based partners. Mahalo.
Whew, look at them. It's like, whew,
Mahalo,
we
Administrator and
got out of that one.
Next,
Not yet.
I would like to invite Maui County Fire Chief Brad Ventura.
Aloha. There's lots that's going on right now, but in the brief time that I have with you, I want to share a few points on what's going on out there, both sides of the island.
Now,
as far as the
this is a really interesting profile, this picture right here. And the reason that I think this is so interesting, if I was on my other computer, I would zoom in so I can make my point, but I can't on this computer system. Here's the reason why I think this is such an interesting shot, right? Because this man right here, he's in charge of the fire department, whose house incidentally burned to the ground. He is with a neighbor on top of his house, wetting down the yard, the house, trying to keep the grass from jumping to their property, and as well as his next door neighbor, right? When he gets word, this all came through like just a people being interviewed on the spot to say, hey, what did you see or what did you hear? And the other guy said, well, we were just standing there on the roof. I was talking to the chief of the fire department and his house was on fire too. And so finally he said, yep, I think it's time we better leave. They just cut the water off. And they loaded up in their cars, grabbed their families, got in their cars, left. So isn't it an interesting picture that you have this guy up speaking for the fire department? Okay, knowing, so when you get it, I know when y'all finish watching this, if you haven't already, you're probably going to go and start really learning and reading everything you can find about the fire. And there's a lot because it was so unusual, didn't make sense, nonsensical, a lot of cognitive dissonance. People can't make sense of what they're hearing, doesn't match with what we already know. And so there's a lot of conspiracy theorists that are out there in force. It's a lot of people really struggling to understand how could this happen. Well, this guy's one of them. He knows that his fire department is well trained. He knows that they know what they're doing. And they had the fires early in the morning, little small contained little brush fires. They were nothing. They were nothing compared to what happened that evening. So they have a couple of these little fires. Some people just put their fires out with a water hose. And there was one old guy that said, I wonder why they're not turning the electricity off, because it's the electricity that is sparking these fires where the old pineapple plantation the plants had died and it was turned into kindling. It was this, like hay, basically dried long grass. And so the wind was blowing. This other thing I don't understand, this damn Maui, just like in Galveston, when the wind blows, we don't care because we have hurricanes here that, dig the asphalt up off of off the ground. So the idea of blowing winds, most in like with the hospitals and critical infrastructure, the police, the fire department, water facilities, all of that, the lines and everything are underground. We know what we are here. We recognize that we have a bullseye on us with these big real hurricanes, not Hurricane Hillary. And I'm just aghast to find out that Hawaii would not, after all these years, why would they have not already buried their lines? Like, that was so strange to me. But they clearly have not. And so that was in terms of the mechanics of the fires, they believe that it was twofold. One, that the wind was blowing, although it didn't seem like it was blowing, it wasn't like 120, 150 mile an hour winds. It was like 55 and then gusting up to, I think, around 80. So low category 1 type of wind. But it was enough, apparently, that some of the lines touched the ground and sparked fires. And then they also had some electricity that was arching off the lines that theoretically they say could have caused the kindling to ignite, right? Both completely controllable. Doing controlled burns would have stopped it. Putting your electric lines underground, especially those that are right there on the coast, could have easily been solved for a fairly small price tag. So, the emergency management system department is being blamed for this. The fire department has not been blamed. People are not angry with the fire department. Incidentally, Governor, no one on social media has lied about the fire department. No one on social media has said the fire department was poorly trained. No one has said anything like that. So why are they only lying about the water department and the man who made the decision not to sound the alarms? But why are you calling normal, regular citizens a bunch of crazy liars when there seems like their story is pretty direct? They're not just taking aim at what might be considered the normal culprits. So this man here lost his house. He made the call that probably saved the life of his neighbor and their family. But he himself said, it's time to go. We're done now. We're not going to get any more water. They literally turned the water off when they could have redirected and gotten plenty of water when they were able to stop the fire. Obviously, you're not going to stop the fireball that got out of control that night. But earlier in the day, late afternoon, early evening, they absolutely could have had to have the water. This guy that's got his hands on his glasses, he didn't get the approval. We're going to meet the guy that wouldn't give the approval, but this is not him. I don't know if he asked. I don't know about the paperwork, if it was done properly. But by the time that the dude said, okay, you can have some more water, the town was gone. It's terrible, terrible thing.
Coolest side of the fire and that side of the island. Just want to share with everybody that we're thankful for the volunteers that are out there helping each and every day recently. We just want them to be as careful as they can while they're working in very dangerous conditions. There are lots of troubled spots. There are lots of hot spots. The perimeter has not grown, but we need to know where places are that people need help. So please call our Makawao and Kula fire stations. If nobody's able to answer there, any kind of flare-ups or spot fires, call 911, and we're going to leave where we're at to come help you. Today we flew a recon flight of the Kula fires, and the perimeter, like I said, has not expanded at all. The water in that area is completely restored, so we're able to work off of all the water systems in that area.
Unbelievable.
We have several resources up there today, including the Department of Forestry.
So now
and Wildlife.
he's talking about an area that's higher in elevation, and they say that it is very common for it to have brush fires. That's not unusual in that area. Again, my question: why'd they cut the water off? If they're having brush fires and they know the fire department is there trying to fight the fire, why have they only just restored water 3 or 4 days after this horrific nightmare? It's so, I don't know what happened. I don't think it was any one person that caused it. I think it was just a general mindset that was driving decisions, and all of those decisions were bad. They weren't based on science. They weren't based on reality. If you have a farmer that comes in and plants thousands of acres of pineapple, and then they shut everything down and they leave the old plants to just turn to, dried brush, it's going to burn. It's going to burn. It's just a matter of when and how. Why wasn't the fire department out there in the months before burning it? Why weren't they doing controlled burns and getting it all under control so that they didn't have this horrific nightmare? Other people have said when the electricity began arcing, why didn't they turn the electricity off? And you're going to hear one of the answers was, well, because the water pumps need the electricity to run. No, I think they're asking you, why didn't you do that before it sparked a fire? Why didn't you do that? I don't think it's people wanting to point the finger. I think it's people actually looking for real information to develop some understanding of what happened. But they've chosen one guy, and he's your scapegoat. He's going to take the whole brunt of this whole entire tragedy. And I had this thought. He actually resigned fairly quickly. I think the day of that night he resigned, or the next day he was out of there. My skepticism kicked in. Really did. So, was he paid to be the scapegoat? Did they say, hey, we got to have somebody to point the finger at, somebody for everybody to hate? You're going to be it, but we're going to make sure you got plenty of money to live the rest of your life in luxury. Who knows? I'm not saying that did happen. I'm saying the time is very strange. Timing is very strange that they march him out in front of this, the cameras in this very important press conference. He takes the focus of what happened. He is the scapegoat, and then they erase him that night or the next day. It's very interesting.
As well as our fire department tankers and wildland trucks, along with the normal crews that we have up there on the hill. To give you some idea, the last 3 days, Monday we had 22 firefighters up on the hill just in the Kula area. Tuesday 16, and Wednesday 16. We are spread thin and we are at multiple locations throughout the island. If we do need to get more people up there, we will, but we do need information from the public on where the trouble spots are. Second, the Lahaina recovery efforts. Our MFD teams are embedded with our USAR teams are embedded with the national USAR teams that are here, and we're continuing to work on the search and recovery. Our suppression companies are also attached to that. Every day we're attaching several suppression companies as well as private tankers, because as we know, the water system is not fully up and running in that area. Today we utilized 2 CH-47s with help from General Logan's team to do water drops this morning. And those aircraft will also be on standby this afternoon in Lahaina as they re-energize lines with Hawaiian Electric. We just want people to remain vigilant as we know weather's coming in and winds are up. We are on standby. We are at the ready. And
Yeah, they had like a hurricane.
We're ready for it. Maui.
Oh, I feel so bad for that man.
Mahalo, Chief Ventura. Next, Maui County Police Chief John Pelletier.
Now this fella,
Aloha.
aloha.
Again,
This guy is controversial. Is that a good way to say it, chat? Who wants to tell us who this guy is? Who knows who he is? Yeah, body's not even recovered yet. How can you buy the land? Yeah, exactly, Diamond Paw, I'm with you. Danielle says Las Vegas. Anybody with a little bit more details? GI Sexy Joe. I don't know about that. And my heart is true to Matthew McConaughey. Okay, so this police chief was in Las Vegas during the shooting. Remember the concert, Jason Aldean? He was the guy that was in charge there. That is, Dave. Yep. I'm just going to press the play button and keep my mouth shut.
in the world, we need your patience, we need your prayers, and we will persevere through this.
Yes, we will.
110
Joe.
is the number, 38% is the area searched. We have, as we opened up the road, because of the incredible efforts of the National Guard and the other forces that are here, as well as other law enforcement agencies from within the state, to include the sheriffs, to include Big Island PD, to include HPD, to include the FBI and others. We've been able to reinforce the affected burn zone or the disaster zone. And because of that, we were able to open up the road. Now, there is a difference between need and want. If you need to get over there, go. If you want to get over there, don't go. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I need you guys and my officers and the members in these uniforms sworn oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Nevada. And I understand Constitution of the state of Hawaii, which is another one that I swore to uphold. Forgive me. Because we understand the freedom of the press. But when we were here 2 days ago, there was a national news site actually standing on Front Street, streaming. Please report the news, but don't be the news. Please. We're adding, because of the Department of Transportation, a dust screen, which does a couple things. It actually blocks the dust and the debris with the winds coming out, but it also obstructs the view, which is a good thing, because we don't need people stopping over on the side and trying to exploit some of the different things that are going in. It's a large scene. And so we're going to ask that you travel to and from where you need to go, and you don't pull over, because you're going to be warned and then you're going to be towed. We don't say that to be mean or callous. We're saying that because we need to get this done right. We have set up what's called the MINT, the Morgue Investigation and Notification Task Force, with our local and federal agencies so that we can do these identifications right and proper, that we can use investigative needs and means and measures with our partners so that we can make sure that we're finding who our loved ones are and that we make the notifications with dignity and honor. And so as we proceed to do that, it's very complex, but I got to tell you, I met with them. I'm also the coroner, for those that don't know that. And I was extremely pleased. And what this team of servants, we're all servants, is doing is we're every day asking what's working, what's not, and how can we improve. And so we are going to adjust and we are going to pivot and we're going to be doing things. And you might be asking, why are they doing that? Why are they changing? Because we're doing things to make this the best plan possible. This is unprecedented. No one has ever seen this that is alive today. Not this size, not this number, not this volume, and we're not done. And so we ask for your continued prayers.
You're not done?
We really need them. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Chief Pelletier. Next, Brigadier General Steve Logan, Dual Status Commander of Joint Task Force 50.
Yeah, aloha and good afternoon. I really appreciate you affording me the time to come and bring you up to date on what we've been doing since the last time we had a conference like this and what we're going to be doing in the future. So yesterday we had a visit from General Charles Flynn. He's the commander of the United States Army Pacific, which is in charge of all Army forces from about the west coast of California all the way out past Japan. Super busy. You know, he has a big, heavy schedule, and he spent the whole day here. He met with the mayor. He went out to the impact zone. He personally thanked a lot of the workers that were out there. He has a really good perception of what's happening. He also was accompanied by Major General Kenneth Hart. You see him a lot on the.
They went to the impact zone. If you want me to rewind it, I can, but I promise you, those are the exact words. Went to the impact zone. That's exactly what was said. Later, you're going to hear the governor talk about things that they can do for the future for other meteorological events. What? So we have an impact zone, and the governor is worried about meteorological events. But it was a brush fire. And we turned the water off because water should be worshipped.
Podium here. He's been designated by Governor Green as the incident commander. So between those two, they're back on Oahu right now. And we have the rest of DOD or the rest of the Department of Defense assets and capabilities postured to be able to support the county of Maui. We were honored to be able to provide some additional security forces in support of Chief Pelletier and the Maui Police Department that allowed the road to open back up and maybe decongest and provide some relief to West Maui. As stated, we brought over two CH-40 Chinook aircraft. They're really big, and they're actively fighting fire, and they're postured for the re-energization of the Hawaiian Electric lines. So just in case something happens, they'll be on call. Now, because that was our two that we had standing by, we then went through our Title 10 deputy, which is Colonel Dave Fielder, and the active Army has aircraft that are on status, standing by on Oahu, just in case a fire breaks out that exceeds our capacity. So just that, you know, if you don't see it, we still have that capability on call. Today, we went out and assisted in planning for that fencing and barrier material that the chief talked about, the screens, to be able to integrate that into the security part of the impact zone so that we can let the critical work that's going on in there continue. And we also have fatality search and rescue teams embedded with the urban search and rescue teams. In the next 24 hours, we're going to bring in some additional security folks.
Didn't they just say at the beginning of this that no one is bothering them, that nobody's looting, that there's no trouble? They don't want to let people leave the area. They stopped the placard system, but now they're talking about keeping people out by building barricades. Why? This doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they just want to look busy. I don't know. It's very strange to me.
These will further augment the Maui Police Department. We are fully in support of Mayor Bisson's initiatives. And what we're thinking is we're going to apply them up into the West Maui, deeper in, up into the Napali area to help those residents feel more safer and secure. That's all I have. Thank you for this opportunity.
Mahalo, General Logan. Next, Brad Kaiserman, VP of Disaster Operations for Red Cross.
Is you fed? Is you deep?
Aloha, good afternoon.
That was for all.
I want to take a moment to just endorse what Chief Pelletier said. My father once said to me, he said, "Son, don't get good at a lousy job." And then I went and became the head of disaster relief for the American Red Cross.
Wow. Wow. He's a very confident speaker, isn't he? Very confident.
My organization has been in every major disaster in the United States for as long as it's existed. I have been in every major disaster in the United States for the past decade. This is unprecedented, Chief. I also want to say the response from the state of Hawaii and Maui County has been equally unprecedented in its quality, its sensitivity, its compassion, and its care for its citizens. I've seen nothing but enlightened leadership in the last week that I've been here.
He really, listening to him speak, he carries himself, like a leader. What do you guys think? If you think he impresses as a leader, a man who's used to being in control, people doing what he tells them to do, put a 1. If you just think, that's just his personality and he's just a regular old Red Cross worker, didn't put a 2. Let's just see. It's a little curious. Not if you ask the locals. He is a very confident speaker and he is controlling that room. Yeah. Yep. It was like when he steps up, you're just like, boom, like the personality hits you. And everybody responds when he talks. They all stand a little, taller, and so weird. So strange.
Because of that enlightened leadership, it's important to understand that we all share the same mission, and that is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of this emergency, this catastrophe that has occurred. Thanks to the President, Administrator Deanne Criswell of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and Governor Green, we're able to deliver this program to put the survivors of this horrific fire into hotels, because otherwise they would be in congregate shelters, big open spaces, no privacy, share a bathroom with 600 of your friends. Instead, and think of the trauma that folks have been through.
Think about the
To
trauma.
face a fire, to face the decision, do I jump off this cliff, or do I become incinerated? And to lose loved ones, or to not know. And so it can help just to be in a private room.
It's super important to think about the after. It is incredibly important to have these heroes show up in their boats, bringing supplies, getting people out of the ocean, doing whatever they needed to do. The regular people, once again, we see so many stories of true heroism rising to the moment, right? My curiosity is this, that these people will need to be cared for. These people will need a lot of treatment. They'll need homes. They'll need this. This is rebuilding, starting over from scratch in a way that you and I can't imagine. But for people that are conscientious and people that are, take care of their business, they're saying what happened. One of the reasons why it's so dramatically important to ask this question and to get some really honest and sincere answers is because you don't want it to happen again. When Dole moved out, they left that dried grass kindling all over the place. Oahu is filled with the stuff. They've got to stop this from happening again. They've got to burn that crap. They've got to get the water running and not worship water, and make sure that we deal with our water in an equitable fashion. So equitable doesn't mean equal. Equitable means that over time it will balance out. But yes, if you're an intelligent thinking human being, you recognize that sometimes one group or one area needs more than what others would. And I would definitely say that night, on that day, they needed more. If everybody in Hawaii got their water cut off just to have more to put these fires out, then it would have been okay to do that. I don't know a single human being that would have complained about not having water for 24 hours because they were trying to save a town. No one would complain about that. There is a lot of pressure happening in this press conference to focus on the victims. And that is so important. And people are doing it anyway. Churches all over the world are praying for these victims. People are giving money. They're giving food. They're giving time. There were people in Hawaii that opened up their houses and said, here, come move in with me. People buying other people plane tickets to get back to the mainland. But there's still an issue. What happened? And don't treat people like they're stupid. They're entitled to know why their family members died. They're entitled to understand and know why their entire lives got wiped out in 5 minutes of a flash fire. You have to give them those answers so they can heal and they can move forward. And yes, there are people there to help them. And people are definitely stepping up. And the United States government has stepped up with money, and hotel owners have opened door, all of that. And it's needed and it's necessary and it's good. It's moral and ethical. You need to understand the mechanics of what created this type of intense flash fire so the rest of Hawaii doesn't burn down. And this is offensive to me. It's offensive to me that you're being chastised by this guy, saying, don't think about that. Don't think about how it happened. Just focus on now. What are we going to do going forward? We're just going to forget that there was ever a time before the fire. We're just going to only respond after the fire. Very sad.
And we're not just going to leave them in a private room. We're going to make sure that they would get all of the same services that they would get if they were in that big congregate shelter. Disaster health services, disaster mental health services, culturally appropriate spiritual care. We're going to make sure that we can help reunify people with their loved ones working with law enforcement. Thanks to the generosity of Red Cross donors all over the world, and the enlightened leadership of Governor Green, we are not having to spend donor dollars on congregate sheltering or donor dollars on hotel rooms. As a result of that, we're going to be able to quadruple the financial assistance for people who lost their homes in this disaster.
And the money.
And you have the generosity of the donors of the United States and around the world to thank for that help. And we're going to make sure those dollars get into the hands of those who are impacted by this event. And finally, it's not just about money.
The money is critically important, right? I know money gets a bad name, but when you are dealing with mass casualty events, it is very hard to think about what your life would be like if you lose your family members and your house and your job and your clothes and all of the mementos that bring memories. where suddenly you're standing there alone, or you've got a few of your family members or your one little dog or whatever. It's just you. You're back to square one when just 5 hours before you had a very rich and full life. It is for us to manage trauma and loss. There needs to be meaning, right? There has to be meaning. And so for some of these people, it's just gone. Everything is gone. And so these will be people, they will not have the ability to manage and think about money. Like, it's not going to be in their brain is not going to be able to consider, okay, well, I got $10,000 savings in the bank. What is the best use of that money now that I have to start over? Like, where do I start over? What's the safest place? Should I go back to my parents' house? Should I go to my best friend from college? Should I stay right here? If I could get a computer, could I keep working? That's not happening in their brains right now. They are in survival mode, and the very best that they can do is to try to get a couple of bites of food down their throat. That's right now the best they can do. So it does, this guy, they do keep talking a lot about the money that is available right now, that they're getting a hotel room right now. They're going to crawl in bed and they're going to sleep. They're going to sleep for days and days and days. Then the anger will come. So they're not thinking clearly. They're not focused on, I got to rebuild. None of that is happening. It's 100%. They're just simply trying to figure out, do I want to survive? And if I do want to survive, how? How do I do it? So the money is critically important. The $700 that Joe Biden said the government was going to give $700 to each individual person, that's for the immediate, to buy some food, to buy some clothes, just immediate, short term, just to get through the day, right? That's just the start. I think one of the biggest critical first steps is going to be medical care, mental health, spiritual support to help them through this shock and denial phase. And then once they and they'll have a protected place to go through this in the hotel rooms or the B&Bs or people's homes. After, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, once they sort of start getting their feet underneath them, it stopped feeling like a dream. They're like, no, this really did happen. Now what? Then it will be time for other programs. If they want to rebuild their house, to be able, to have the funds to do that, have contractors donate supplies. I mean, let's be realistic. You got Lowe's and Home Depots all over the United States of America. If the boards for these two large building companies, if they got together, they could legitimately donate enough of those supplies to rebuild those houses and take their own hit, right? Like, I'm gonna donate $50,000, $100,000 worth of lumber, and I'll take the hit. Home Depot will take the hit. Lowe's will take the hit. That could realistically happen. So, I don't think this is bad form or obscene talking about the money. He's if you've never seen something like this, not like this because this is unique, but mass casualty, there is this period where people need to be taken care of because they don't have the ability to take care of themselves. And like I said, it can last a couple of weeks, even up to a couple of months or so.
What it's really about is care and compassion. And so what I would share is this. There were tornadoes in Arkansas and Mississippi. Probably don't even know that. Tornadoes in Arkansas and Mississippi in the spring. There are still people today who are in the non-congregate sheltering program. There were people who were in fires in Oregon 3 years ago. They're still in non-congregate sheltering programs.
And Canada
So
right
the
now
housing task
is
force and the
dealing
work
with
that we
these
will
types
all
of
do to
fires.
find housing solutions will be vital. But we will make sure that while those solutions are being developed, that the people who are impacted by this disaster get all of the care. And we are working with our partners in FEMA, the Salvation Army, many nonprofits, the Hawaii Volunteer Organizations active in disaster. We're going to make mistakes along the way, folks. We're not going to get it all right. If you let us know what we're not getting, we're going to fix it. But we are committed. We are committed to helping the people of Maui recover from this horrific event. Thank you very much. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Brad. Finally, Steve Kalanog, U.S. EPA Incident Commander.
Aloha. Good
All
afternoon.
right.
Again, my name is Steve.
You want to know who Jules' scapegoat is? Maybe this guy. This is the controlled burn, Antichrist. All right. That whole idea. I don't mean this man individually, specifically, but I mean, the Environmental Protection Agency. Yes, we have to protect our planet because there is not another one for us to go to when we ruin this one. It can be very difficult to keep your house clean and keep it up. Look at Rex Yerman's house. He didn't keep it up. You see what it looks like. So we do have a responsibility to the planet, to treat her well and to treat her with respect. Not everything is about its natural state. Sometimes the natural state is a pretty bad thing. And for example, deer. I know that seems kind of random, but people think it is a horrible thing to hunt deer. And the reality is the majority of people that hunt deer now in this world, they're taking it to the butcher and it's being turned into hamburger meat and sausage and cutlets, and families will put that deer into their freezer and eat on it all year long. So that is true. And there's a lot of people that don't want that to happen. They think it's cruel to the deer and they think it's heartless. The reality is that if you don't do that, then the natural way, Mother Nature's way, is overpopulation. And the deer's population will grow because there's no wolves, right? They've been eradicated for the most part, for cows and things like that. So the deer don't have a natural predator in most states, Texas, Louisiana. The natural predators are not really like they were 200-300 years ago that would keep the deer population down to a healthy level. And so you get proliferation, you get too many deer, and then they're starving to death. That is a horrific, horrible sight. And starvation is actually one of the most painful deaths that any organism can experience. So I don't want to watch a deer get shot. I don't want to see one getting processed. I don't even like the meat. I'm a seafood. I eat shrimp and fish and stuff. I don't like, meat, but I also don't have any interest at all in watching a bunch of deer starve to death. I don't, it's a terrible thing. So some of this is uncomfortable topics. And I get that a controlled burn looks bad. If you're going to burn all that, that pasture, you need to burn it down and get the underbrush out, and everything, so you don't have a forest fire. You see all that black smoke going up in the air and you think, oh my gosh, that's so bad for the atmosphere. Well, maybe, but all that black smoke went up in the air anyway when it burned the town down. At least if they had done a controlled burn, then people would be alive and the town would be intact. And the burns can be done in a very safe way that keeps people safe. So I know I would, of all the jobs in the world, the one job I would never take, I don't care what they were offering, would be EPA. And the reason that I say that is because it's one of those jobs that you have to make the hard decisions that, yeah, this is bad, But if we don't do this bad thing, then this really terrible thing is going to happen. So it is an unforgiving job for sure.
Steve Kellogg with the U.S. EPA. I'm EPA's incident commander. We've been tasked by FEMA to conduct phase 1 of the household hazardous waste removal in the aftermath of this fire. First and foremost, on behalf of EPA, I'd like to express our condolences to the communities affected upcountry in Lahaina, the county of Maui, and the state of Hawaii. Our job, as we've done every year in California for the past 10 years, is to come in after the fires and begin the first step to recovery, the removal of hazardous waste debris. The hazardous waste that remains can include things like paint solvents, cleaners, pesticides.
It's so hard to believe.
Fertilizers, ammunition. First and foremost, this is free to all residents. We are doing this.
Excuse me, for those of you that are hunters or you have guns or do target practice or whatever, you saw that fire, right? Do you think the ammunition remained intact or did it fire? There's no ammunition there. I don't know. I would, what I was going to say a while ago, I'd be very, 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 very surprised if paint, if turpentine, if those things even survived. How? Did nothing survive the fire? The concrete was turned to sand. Nothing survived. I mean, there's some trees that survived, some palm trees and whatnot, but you know, the metal and the concrete was a high temperature fire, very high temperature. So doubtful that there's ammunition and paint, and I just don't. That would be weird for me.
It's in close coordination with the county and the state, our state counterparts, and we are actually beginning work up in the upcountry area today with our recon teams, and anticipating that we might be able to begin recovery work there shortly, and of course coordinating with the USAR activities in Lahaina, and at a time what we all agree is the right time for us to begin the work, we will do that. Again, this is free to all residents of the impacted communities. That's all I have.
I like that, man. I wasn't hating
Mahalo,
on him.
Steve. Now I would like to open up to questions from the media.
Okay, people, hang on to your honeys. It's about to get real.
I'd like to remind everyone that we welcome all questions, but do ask for your kindness and aloha in asking them. Please raise your hand and await my acknowledgement, at which time I will ask you to state your name and news organization before proceeding with asking your question. I will also repeat the question to ensure clear communications. In the spirit of allowing everyone in attendance the time to ask a question, we kindly request your kokua in raising one question per news organization versus per person in attendance. Mahalo nui, and I will start. Christy, name and news organization, please.
Kristen Tomashiro from KH12 News. My question is going back to sirens. Why were sirens not used in Lahaina or upcountry last week, as wildfire is listed as the purpose for them on the official state website?
So the question is around siren use, clarification on that, noting that wildfire use for sirens is stated on the website. Mahalo.
Look at these guys. Look at their faces.
State-owned outdoor siren system is a tool that we can use, and we've used in the past. However, in a wildland fire incident, the system has not been used, either in Maui or in other jurisdictions around the state. In this case, our internal protocol is to use WEA, which is the Wireless Emergency Alert System, and the EAS, the Emergency Alert System. WEA sends alerts to by text messages to cellular phones.
They said there was no cell phone service. Some of the boat captains said that the cell phone service was down.
And the EAS sends messages to both television and radio. Local notification system sends messages via text, voicemail, and our landlines. Counties in the state of Hawaii will tell you that sirens have not been used for brush fires. It is our practice to use the most effective means of conveying an emergency message to the public during a wildland fire. And it is the WEA NES along with other local mass notification system called MEMA alerts.
Mahalo. This next question comes from Peter Boylan with the Honolulu Star Advertiser. Is the AG's comprehensive review Is the AG's comprehensive review a criminal or a civil investigation? And is the U.S. Department of Justice and other federal agencies assisting with the inquiry? And this question is for the governor.
Sure. So I thought, because the most important thing we can do at this point is to learn how to keep ourselves safer going forward, that we would start this comprehensive review right away. And that's what we're doing. So I tasked the Attorney General to do that. She's bringing in outside support as well. There's been some question about whether it could be done independently. The answer is yes. She has stated to me from the beginning that that was one of the purposes. She'll, of course, review what she can, but we will bring outside reviewers also. It's not a criminal investigation in any way. We will bring in whatever help is necessary. Right now, we are working to find out how we can make sure it's safe as we go through hurricane season, as we deal with the reality that there are going to be fires month in and month out for the decades to come, and not just in Hawaii, but all across the country. So we view this as a way to learn and to share, in this case from our tragedy, we want to share how to best protect people all across the planet. That's really what it is. We also are going to bring in individuals like FEMA experts to help us. I've also asked that they consult with NASA and work with the best scientists that work on meteorologic incidents across the globe. We also will have a lot of university input. We won't turn away anyone who wants to be supportive of this research and this study, because we want to make sure that it's safer for all going forward.
Patience, I promise. Okay, our next question, I'm going to take it in the back. Diane.
Diane Alco from KITV. I was wondering, I'm reading these national articles about how there were bodies found in trees, bodies huddled together, and the death toll still continues to be super low as based compared to what people are saying or what I'm hearing on the ground. Like, I understand that Chief Pelletier has talked about being patient. That's for an ID process, but is there like a higher body count that we're not hearing about?
So the question is just around clarifying the body count or the death toll.
I really do appreciate the question. We have to be respectful because we got one chance to do this. We got one chance to do this right. And that's what I said, we're going to do it right. Now, we did, on the beginning few days, the recovery for the areas that we could see, whether it was on the street or in a car. And with all due respect, we haven't made notifications. And I am not going to say how we found people when I haven't even told their families. How do I do that? You know, have we found remains that are maybe smaller than other remains? I'm not going to sit here and sensationalize that. But the answer to that is yes. But we haven't, what I'm talking about is children. Okay. So we're going to do this right. We have to identify them and then notify them. But that's what we're dealing with. We brought in all these extra resources because we need them. And in a rush to go and paint a picture of what the number is, and I said, I don't know that final number yet. It's growing, it's going to continue to grow. We've got 38% that we've searched. But we have to do this right and realize that the responders that are going out there are recovering their loved ones and members of their families, because we have an integrated, unified, urban search and rescue team. And when we recover it, we're going to treat it and it is not, what I'm saying is when we recover the decedent, we're going to treat it with the reverence, the care, and the respect that it deserves. And we have members of the armed forces local from Maui here that are making sure that we do this with the utmost honor possible. I know everybody wants to get that story. I know everybody wants to know, hey, who's on that list? But again, we've got one chance to do this right, and I'm not going to rush it. I'm sorry.
I thought this was a bit of a, I don't know what I think about that answer. I got the feel, I feel like somehow that I maybe, did I misunderstand the question, right? Because listening, I thought the question was, there's a dramatic difference between the number of people you claim to have found and then the number of people on the missing, excuse me, y'all, the number of people that you found on the missing list or that are on the missing list. I didn't think that they were asking for names, right? I think the discrepancy was, how can you have 1,000 people missing in such a small area? Have you not found them? Now, to be fair, they've only gone to about 30% of all of the affected area. So at the time of this press conference, but I don't know. I just didn't think. What did y'all think? Did y'all get the feeling that they were asking for names of who was deceased, or did you get the feeling that it was simply, why is it we've only got a couple people identified, but there's thousands that are missing? Why is there such a dramatic discrepancy? What did y'all think? I'm just curious. I can't believe that a place that would be on high alert against all kinds of possible threats would not have an alarm system available. They did have an alarm system, a state-of-the-art alarm system. And they're going to talk more about the alarm system, and your jaw's going to hit the ground when you hear the answer for why they decided not to sound the alarm. Like, it's hard to make sense of it, but you'll hear it. Sammy, thank you so much. Member for 22 months. You are a sweetheart. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support.
I see everyone, I promise. Thank you for your patience. This next question comes from Allison Blair with Hawaii News Now. Can you tell us when the Maui County EOC was activated for the Lahaina fire, and which agencies were there when the fire started moving toward the town Tuesday afternoon?
Maui UC was activated on Monday evening at 9 o'clock. Partial activation because of the fires that was occurring out in Kula. And subsequently went to full activation the next day. Initially, there was a Lahaina fire that was under control in the morning.
Not out.
And then another fire broke out later on in the evening, in the afternoon.
They let it burn
at that
all
point,
day.
we're in full activation.
Very patient. We'll take the next question
Thank
here.
you. Jonathan DeGriati with CBS News. This question is for Mr. Andaya. You made the decision not to sound the sirens, which could have saved many lives. Now there are questions about your lack of experience, that you only
This is a CBS reporter asking this question.
took online courses for disaster relief, no in the field experience. Do you regret your decision? And have you considered handing over the reins to somebody with more experience?
So they're claiming the scapegoat, Hadaya, that he simply just didn't have the experience to have this particular position. He just didn't know it. There's been that same kind of problem in other mass casualty events as well.
So the question is around sirens as it relates to the disaster, and the question is for Herman.
This is unbelievable.
So the news story talks about how I didn't have experience before taking on a job, and that's not true. Before taking on a job, I was a member of the cabinet. I was deputy director of the Department of Housing and Human Concerns, as well as the mayor's chief of staff for 11 years. And so During that time, I was I oftentimes report to the emergency operations centers, and I have done this on numerous occasions. Also, during that time, we went through numerous trainings as well. And so, to say that I am not qualified, I think is incorrect. In addition to that, when I applied for this position, which is, by the way, a civil service position, I went through a very arduous process, and I was vetted. I had to take a civil service exam. I was interviewed by seasoned emergency managers, and they all deemed me qualified. In fact, I was selected. So that's.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. And the reason why, and
so many people said they could have been saved if they had time to escape. Had a siren gone off, they would have known that there was a crisis emerging. And as we know, so many bodies were found in the ground.
Do you want him to give you the answer, or do you want to give?
This is a CBS reporter that is being shut down. This is huge in the United States of America. It's huge.
Let him finish his answer.
Sorry, there's a lot of people.
Well, you're talking and you're not letting him talk. If you want to talk, come up here.
I'm ready for the answer.
Oh.
Then wait.
Oh, you have. Oh.
The sirens, as I mentioned earlier, is used primarily for tsunamis, and that's the reason why many of them are found, almost all of them are found on the coastline. The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. In fact, on the website of the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the following guideline is provided. If you are in a low-lying area near the coastline, evacuate to high grounds, inland or vertically to the fourth floor and higher of a concrete building. Alerts may also come in the form of a wireless emergency alert.
That is under the part of the website that talks about tsunamis, what to do if the tsunami warning goes off. But also on the website, I don't know about today, but it was the night of the fires and about 3 or 4 days after. It also listed like other reasons why they might sound those alarms, and grass fires was one of the reasons. So you make of it what you will. The fact I'm a little uncomfortable that they're trying to pretend that wasn't on their website. Now listen to the way this goes. It's just crazy. This is the craziest thing I've heard.
Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Mauka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
Okay, people. If they sound the alarm and you've been trained to go to higher ground because the alarm means there's a tsunami coming, and you run out of your house and you look around, you say, my gosh, what are we going to do? We better go to higher ground. But when you turn and you look up the mountain, you see fire, a lot of fire. In fact, the whole night sky was glowing. You might say, uh-oh, it looks like we got a volcano. I guess it's not a tsunami. I guess we're dealing with fires or perhaps a new volcanic opening. Let's go. We need to go low. We need to go down to the water. The very fact that government officials would say this, that if they use a state-of-the-art alarm to wake people up in the middle of the night to say, you got a problem. You don't have to like explain to every single person, okay, hey, wake up. I know you're going to be a little scared. It's okay. Wake up, open your eyes. Okay, we have a problem. And it's fire. It's not tsunami, it's fire. We need you to get in your car and get out on the front road where it's a single lane, basically. No, nobody needs that. We're adults. You got to just wake someone up and make just enough to be able to look and go, holy hell, the night sky is on fire. Why? And then you trust people to be intelligent human beings and to come up with a solution, just like the group of people that jumped into the ocean and saved their lives and the lives of people around them. People can figure it out, but not if you don't wake them up. And when they do finally wake up, their house is engulfed in flames. There is nowhere to go, which is exactly what happened. This idea that we're not going to sound the alarm, because if we do, people like trained little monkeys are not going to try to get away from the fire. They're going to see the fire and they're going to run right into it, because their training is, if the alarms go off, run up. But no, honey, there's fire. I don't care. The alarms are ringing. Our job is to go up. But no, honey, we can't. It's fire. I don't care. We know what our training is. And then what? Run over the cliff like a bunch of lemmings. No, people would not do that. The goal would be wake people up. Something went really wrong. It's sad.
And so that is the reason why our protocol has been to use WEA and EAS. By the way, I should also note that there are no sirens, Mauka, or on the mountainside where the fire
Nobody died up there.
So even if we sounded the siren, it would not have saved those people on the mountainside, Mauka.
I'm going to do another friendly reminder that we encourage aloha and kindness. Again, we appreciate the questions, but I would encourage all of us to operate under the values of aloha and kindness. So as you're asking the question, please respect the speaker who is responding.
Okay, but we also need to respect our journalists and the people whose job it is to keep an eye on the government. That is their job, and it is there to keep us safe. It's the only safeguard that a democracy has. It really is, or a representative republic, whatever you want to say. That was a CBS reporter. That was not some conspiracy theorist, on YouTube. That man was entitled to get an answer to his questions. And this guy back here shut him down. Why?
Give them that space, just as they're giving you the space for you to ask your question. All right.
And now she's chastising the reporters. This is unbelievable. This is happening in the United States of America. This is unbelievable.
I'll go right here.
Thank you, Wendy Osher, Pacific Media Groups and Maui Now. My question is for Mr. Anzaya. I understand that there was a bit of a break in communication between the county and the field. From what I understand, I'm not sure. When did it become apparent that people were in imminent danger for their lives?
So the question is around what you are hearing is a disconnect between the county and the field, and when did it become apparent that something was truly going on? Mahalo.
Wow. Chief of Police is nervous.
So the Emergency Operations Center was in full activation that night. And we had in our EOC representation from the fire department. And so they were in constant communications with the field. And so I'm not sure where that comes from, but I can tell you that we did have communication with the field at that point.
Okay, and when did you find out that people were in imminent danger? At what point? Was it immediate?
It was immediately. It was so I was not there that night. I was in Oahu attending a conference. But what I was told by my staff that they received from the battalion chief that was in the EOC that their crews are being overrun. And so at that point we sent out the evacuation notices.
In the middle of the night, while you were in a fancy little hotel, I just thought that it might be a good idea if you were the head of the Office of Emergency Management Don't you think you'd probably leave a little, chummy kind of conference and say, hey, I've got a community in danger. I better get back to Maui. Don't you think you'd probably do that if you were the boss of your company and somebody calls and says, hey, boss, we just got hit by a tornado? Don't you think you'd drop what you're doing, or you'd say, man, I'm having a damn barbecue with my friends. Can't you handle this yourself? No, you wouldn't say that. You would say, I'll be right there. No questions asked, correct? He doesn't come to this area. He doesn't leave the hotel until the next day.
If we could, I'm going to ask if you have a question related to Herman, please lower your hand. I'm going to give him just a one question break, okay? I'll go here.
All right, Bobby Calvon with the Associated Press and a product of the land of Aloha.
Thank you.
Now listen to this guy.
And this is for anybody who might be going to ask this question. Yeah, after more than a week, public frustration has grown to the point that there's been a breakdown and loss of trust. There's been early missteps, some failures. That's all added to this mistrust, public mistrust. Now much of the operation is actually being conducted, out of the public eye. That mistrust grows even more. For example, people are kind of wondering, whether or not the body counts are true. There are lots of opinions being shared on social media. You've seen all that. The pace of recovery, the safety of water, and that, officials are withholding information and aren't being forthcoming. How do you make sure that people believe what you're saying and regain the public's trust?
So the question is around public trust.
It's a great question. It's a great question for this horrible tragedy, right? And the people directly affected by this tragedy, they're not the ones answering this question, because remember what I said, they're in survival mode. They're just trying to figure out how to take their next breath. They're not worried about all this, hullabaloo that's happening here. The people that are asking these questions are people that report for a living. These are investigative journalists that go, oh, that looks uncomfortable. Maybe we better find out what that's about. And so now they're asking, this is every single decision head in the room that would have been making the decisions at the moment of this horrific, horrific nightmare. Every guy up there are the guys that were making the decisions all that day, through the night, and into the next day. This is it. So these journalists have a right to ask these questions. It is their job and their moral responsibility to ask these questions. And these guys fell down on the job. The way that they go after these journalists is terrifying. This is not okay. This is what puts the general public in danger. Because when you give a lot of power and access to a lot of money, well, it corrupts. People start trying to figure out how they're going to get their own. And I can't say that if I was in their position, maybe I'd be trying to get a little bit for me too. Okay? Which is why it is critical that we have journalism, honest journalists, to ask these questions and hold the line and expect an answer. Because these guys have no boss. They're it. They're the top of the food chain. Other than if you want to look at even technically the federal government is technically, constitutionally, the federal government is not their boss. I guess the governor and the mayor, I'm not sure about the mayor, but the governor is Democratic. So you could say, well, the DNC is probably his boss. I'd be willing to accept that. a little. The truth is, every single person that you see up here, they are at the top of their field, and the buck stops with each one of them. They made their decisions that night, that day, that night, the next morning. They made their decisions according to their little kingdom, the services they were in charge of. They made the ultimate decisions. The fact that these guys start fighting the journalist, well, it's terrifying. Citizens should not accept this. This is unacceptable.
Well, first and foremost, if you're relying on social media, with all due respect,
That's just an example, sorry.
well, that's the example you used.
Yeah.
It's a terrible example.
Defensive much, little governor? You're on the defense. Why?
Because social media is the worst source.
Well, sir, you just have to go out and talk out people out of the street.
I think you'll let me answer the question as governor.
Oh, as governor. Oh, okay. What did I just say? What did I just say? I said, you give a guy, a woman, a person, you give a person a position of power, innate power. It's not he earned the power. It's not his power. It's the power of an office. You give a guy or a woman the power of an office, and you couple that with access to unmitigated wealth that he didn't earn, and you have a problem. It is difficult for human beings to fight that combination. Yes, we all have ethics, morals. It was instilled in us when we were children, and we all work really, really hard to try to stay true to those ethics and those morals. But when you take one guy or two guys or three guys and you put them in positions of ultimate, unquestioned power, they tend to look a little less for guidance toward their own ethics and morality. That is why the framers of this country had division of power. That's why we have three heads of government to play check on one another. That the executive office, presidency, whatever, they can watch over the legislatures, and the legislatures can watch over the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can watch over they all have equal powers. We don't have kings and emperors in this country, or we're damn well not supposed to. So the role of a free press was written into this idea that it's critical that we have a free press who can operate and investigate as well as uncover undesirable information about our elected officials. That is their job, is to uncover that information and publish it so that the voter, the individual citizen, can exercise their right to say, well, I think I want this person to return in that role. They've done a good job. Or, nope, I remember that big scandal. Don't want this person back. I'm going to vote for somebody else. We're having a complete breakdown in all that. We're losing the safeguards. And when you don't have those safeguards, then absolute power corrupts and terrible, evil things happen when corruption takes over. So the very fact that this is the head right here of the snake, right here, this is it. And you've got some journalists who really no one knows their names. I mean, they have their credentials, CBS, ABC, Hawaii. They have their credentials, but in terms of the individual man, the individual face, nobody knows who they are. Nobody's going to recognize their names, but they're critical in keeping us safe from unscrupulous bad actors. The fact that these guys think that they can lord over those journalists, that they can go after those journalists, they are already corrupt. They are showing that they believe that they have unchecked power. They can do what they want, and we, the little people, we don't matter.
Doing reporting through social media is idiotic. Doing reporting in person is intelligent. I'm glad you're doing some of that. We also, as you can imagine, are speaking.
So let's talk a little bit, Governor, about who's idiotic. When you have boat captains that are out in the boat and they're searching for bodies, and you can see boats on fire, and you can see people in the water with their families recording saying, I don't know if we're going to make it. I don't know if we're going to live. And they upload that to social media. Why? Because it needs your seal of approval as the boss, or because it is the human experience with no reason to lie? None. So I don't know, call me crazy, but I'm much more inclined to believe that kid recording his little brother and his mom in the ocean as they huddle some woman they don't know and say, maybe we should pray. We may not make it. That is real. That is factual, not you covering your behind. Sorry, I got a little triggered.
Speaking to people constantly. Everyone is speaking to me through my cell phone. Same can be said of our local officials. We are local people, like you described. Don't use social media to judge these questions. You have people who are predators on social media. We know that for a fact. You have people who want to spread negativity. I think you're aware that in this state, for the last going on 5 years now, I and others give you raw data on these crises. Very few other municipalities do that kind of thing. We give you updates constantly. You can say you want that there's public mistrust, but then when the people go out, whether it's people restoring power or the firefighters or the police, we are watching them be mahaloed by people who love them.
Yeah, but
Do mistakes happen?
Governor, people trust the utility workers. That's their neighbors and their husbands and their wives and their children and their grandparents. The rescue workers, the firemen, the police officers, the teachers, the store owner, that's us. That's who we are. That's our families out there doing. This problem of trust doesn't have anything to do with the utility workers reconnecting the electricity. Nothing. They're going to bring them water, and they're going to bring them sandwiches and snacks and fresh shirt and a wet washcloth to wash their face. That's not where the credibility problem is, Governor. The credibility problem is you and all these other heads, decision makers, because the way that you are talking to these people that have just gone through hell and back, literally, you're speaking to them like they are stupid. You are telling them that you did not give them an alarm in the middle of the night to alert them that there was danger because you did not want them to wake up and walk into the fire. Have you seen the videos of the size of this fire? Have you seen the red skyline? There is nothing on this planet that would have made people walk up the mountain into the fire going, well, the alarms went off. We're supposed to walk up. Not possible. Wouldn't happen. You say, don't get your reporting from social media. Don't believe the things that you see on social media. Oh, so what you're saying is that your citizens were not in the ocean for 7 hours? Because it looks like they were. And people can't figure out why the cars are all along Front Road, burnt to a crisp, a lot like, the Secret Service cars were burnt magically. But why aren't any of the doors open on any of the cars? Did the people not say, oh my God, we better try to run for it. Let's run down into the ocean. I can see the water. I'm looking out the window. There's the water. Why wouldn't people get out of their cars and run for the water? No one can ask these questions because of the way that you're seeing this angry, aggressive, like jumping at the reporters. They're jumping at them and controlling them and speaking down to them, being very aggressive, not only in word, but in body language. Very aggressive. Why? Why? And then this guy right here, just now, he said, let us answer your questions. Come to us with your questions. They are. And you guys are not answering. You're just attacking them. Whew. Terrible.
Happen absolutely in a crisis circumstance. Do you expect water to be perfect after the largest fire in the history of any municipality? No. We report that. We started in a comprehensive review within 72 hours. So I know it can be enjoyable to say there are failures, that there's lack of trust.
Enjoyable?
You can look here and see if you can trust me. You can look at this strong gentleman behind me as mayor and ask whether you trust him.
Yes, Greenie.
But please, do not rely on people who fancy themselves as influencers. The word influencer, right off the bat, suggests that they want to influence.
Did he really just say, don't listen to influencers? Did he really just say that? He just declared war on the American citizen. It's just incredible. It's incredible. What do you guys think? Let me look at y'all. Now he's being sarcastic. 100%. He makes my blood boil. Katie, I'm so glad you said that because I feel like I'm deranged because I'm so look, there's two issues here, right? You watch the videos of the people, the families that live through this, and you weep. It's just devastating. There's even no way to describe it other than it's just the most horrible, sad thing since 9/11 for me. It's the worst since 9/11. And so you're worried, you're very concerned and you care about these people and you think, how do I help? And so then you're looking for good information, like accurate, factual information you can trust, right? So what better way to get it than to watch a press conference? That's the way these are the guys at the top of the snake who made the decisions. Period. This is it. The buck stops with them. Period. Well, why are they screaming and yelling at journalists to make them quit asking bad questions? And why were they so excited talking about all of the capitalistic endeavors that they were going to be working on and looking into the future and having job training programs for the survivors? No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. When you lose your whole family, job training isn't in the books for about 2 decades. This needs to be set to circus music. That's how bad it is. When you've got the governor of a state where there has been an emergency declared for a mass casualty event where some very questionable decisions happened, very questionable, and you're up at a podium screaming at people, don't listen to the influencers. My God in heaven, whatever you do, no, don't listen to the influencers. Don't do that. They may show videos of real live people in the water. Then how will we spin that narrative when it's time to go vote? Don't listen to influencers. Their very names should be the warning sign to you. Really? This is crazy. If you think this is the craziest press conference you've ever seen, put a 1. Sincerely, I'm curious. It is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable that you've got a CBS reporter there asking a question that everybody is curious about. You've got thousands, that is plural, thousands of people that are missing, and you're reporting 114. Can we get a little bit of insight on that? Why does it look like that? Like, what do you think? And you get chastised and screamed at by the chief of police, who tells you that he's not just going to run around and start gossiping about dead children. What? No, chief, no one said a word about naming anybody or looking for children. No one said anything. Their question is everybody that I've talked to has made comment on this. Everybody I've talked to has said, isn't that strange? A week and a half later, you got 114 people named, but people are saying there are thousands missing. Is that 1,200? Is that 2,500? Is that 3,000? We don't know. The way it's reported is thousands with an S. So now you're going to scream, don't follow the influencers. Don't listen to the influencers. How petty. You got a very simple question. How is it possible that there are thousands being reported missing? You're saying there's 114. Those numbers don't seem to match, because they don't. And the answer is, you're a horrible, terrible person because you want me to talk about dead children and name names. That answer, it was a, what do you call it? Red herring. But that answer you just gave was not even in that very fact-based, curious question. If the death toll is over 1,300, it would be worse than hurricane. Is that supposed to be Katrina? Oh, I think we're going to blow past 1,300. I think we're going to blow past 1,300. How else do you make sense of this level of defensiveness? This is a high level of defensiveness. These are incredibly powerful men up here, and they are jumping back both verbally and physically. Their body language, they are jumping back at these reporters. The minute those reporters start asking a question that they're anticipating, they know they're coming, and they don't have an answer. So you know what they do? They start screaming at the reporter. They start screaming at the reporter, saying, I'm the governor. I'm the governor. Don't ask me uncomfortable questions. I'm the governor. That is a tactic that every person who is engaged in infidelity in their marriage knows and uses. And that is, if the wife starts asking questions, if the husband starts looking through your phone, what's the one thing you do? Do you wait for questions so you can answer them? Hell no. You scream and yell, you create a commotion, and if you're lucky, you'll be able to just grab your keys and walk out of the house and grand exit saying, I am shocked that you would accuse me of such a thing. And then he's driving or she's driving off down the road going, damn it, that was close, man. Man, he's getting close to asking me the right questions, and he's going to know when I answer. I just can't answer them. I've got to keep the conversation turned away from my affair. That's what you just witnessed. Stop the person asking the question. Then I don't have to give the answer. Then I can't be fact-checked on my crappy little answer. So good job, Governor. Way to go.
You in a position which will increase the clicks on their social media sites. That will increase their popularity, making it about them. Nothing could be more disgusting than that if we're going to deal with a crisis. Look to these individuals who are taking their time.
Wait. Governor, tally-ho. Oi, 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 oi. Okay. He just said that nothing could be more disgusting than an influencer, social media influencer, making this story about them to garner views, to get attention for them, that it's the most disgusting thing imaginable. Maybe not, Governor. You know what I mean? Maybe the most disgusting thing imaginable is that you have a CBS reporter there, probably a legit guy, who's asking you questions that many people are asking. Not troublemakers, not people trying to stir up a brouhaha, people with, real questions. This is very curious that you have thousands missing, but you're only saying you found 100 people. Why aren't the doors on any of the cars open? Like, why didn't people's natural instinct to bolt and run, why didn't that happen? We saw people bolt and run and during 911. We saw people jump out of burning buildings, for God's sake. You know why? They jumped out of burning buildings because they recognized, I can't get away that way. I'll take my chances. These questions were not bad questions, Governor. These are pretty good questions. So when you talk about there's nothing more disgusting than social media influencers, I think that's supposed to be Instagram influencers, but social media influencers ask these questions and say, this is odd. Like there's a lot of really curious things that came to pass, like why did they turn the water off? A lot of curious things that happen. Maybe the people in charge ought to have an answer. Maybe that's what is so disgusting, Governor. Not the people that are asking the right questions. Maybe that is not disgusting at all. Maybe the thing that is really, really disgusting are the people in charge, the people at the top of the food chain who would rather scream and yell at a reporter like a betrayed husband than to just listen with polite respect and then give a factual answer. Maybe that is actually more disgusting than influencers asking the right questions.
Before they tell you whether a person died in a car or next to a child, before we're able to tell their aunt or their daughter that they've lost someone. And so we're sorry if you sometimes don't feel like things are shared with you in real time. We care more about people than that.
Oh,
Your question was answered.
I'll try it.
And the public trust comes from us coming here every 48 hours to be with you.
Wrong.
You said Farrington, right?
Yeah.
The governor's.
Yeah.
He's the governor right now.
We
Let me just say to you, I can't answer why people don't trust people. There's bad. Now
this is the mayor. And he made sure to tell the reporters who the governor is. He's the governor. That guy right there. He's the governor. Not you. You're not the governor. He's the governor. Okay, no one cares what your job title is. Truly, no one cares. These are people wanting factual information, and you guys are responding like a bunch of cheating hooligans trying to keep from being uncovered by your faithful wife at home. You guys are being silly and ridiculous. It is embarrassing and shameful the way you treated legitimate journalists. Legitimate journalists. Nobody said anything about, you don't owe anything to a single person on social media. You don't owe anything to a single person who does commentary on things related to the news. You owe them nothing, but you do owe legitimate journalists with good reputations working for mainstream media. You do owe them facts because it is their job to watch you guys make fools of yourselves like you did during this press conference.
people in the community There's bad cops, there's good cops, there's bad priests, good priests, bad media, good media. My guess is you verify all of your sources before you print or write. You make sure that those folks are accurate, that are giving you answers. Anybody can stand there and say, oh, I hear this, I heard this, somebody said this. If you want to verify it and give a name and you tell me the name of the person who said that.
I'm sorry. Is there something wrong with me? Doesn't it seem like the journalists who were asking these guys these questions, doesn't it seem like they are trying to verify? Mayor, come on, Mayor. I know you're watching this. They were asking you guys, you and the godforsaken governor that you're so impressed with, they were asking you guys were the verification. That was your role. You're the ones that called the press conference. These journalists that you're yelling at because you don't want them to ask, don't talk about the bad things. Oh my goodness, whatever you do, journalists, don't ask the bad questions. Don't do it. Or I might have to just grab my keys and say, how dare you accuse me of cheating, and walk out, slam the door. That is, in fact, how you guys were acting. These are serious journalists. They work for reputable news outlets. They were trying to verify what they were hearing from citizens. And you guys, I'm not going to say the old saying, but Big Ups probably knows what it is. Something about a dog. You guys messed up. You lost your opportunity. You want to blame the fact that the citizens, the voters, have zero faith in you guys. Zero faith. You want to know why? Because of these types of moments. Because there's not a one of you that wants to stand up and tell the truth. And nobody expects perfection. Nobody. Why? I'm not going to go there. Why do you think that those journalists are there asking you these questions, if not but to verify? So you're virtue signaling, Mayor. You getting up there and lecturing these journalists like they're little children. You called the wrong play in that ball game. They are, in fact, trying to verify right here as you attack them and shut down conversation so you don't have to give the answers that they are trying to get.
Where they live, if they're from here, if they're from somewhere else, that might help you with who to trust. The people that were trying to put out these fires lived in those homes. 25 of our firefighters lost their homes that they were trying to put out. You think they were trying to do a halfway job? You think the people that live here that are helping don't care that they're trying? I mean, you spend a lot of time in here, but go out in the field, get off your.
Okay, you see what he's doing? You see this little trick? This little trick is, okay, they're focusing on me and my friend, the governor. They're focusing on us, and we don't want to answer the questions. And so I'm going to have to tweak this conversation just a bit to make them feel ashamed of themselves. And then once they have the sufficient level of shame, then they'll sit back and shut up and make us kings again. And so the way that they're going to get their shame is this. They're going to take it from a conversation that the people do not trust the power mongers, the heads of the food chain. The people don't trust the governor or the EPA or the Office of Emergency Management, or just in general, they don't trust the information that the government is providing. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't match with what they know about reality. It seems a bit irrational. No one's going to run into a burning mountain, even if there is an alarm, and that's the truth. So people go, well, you guys don't seem to be telling the truth. Why? So instead of them owning it, taking ownership as the big, important, tough people that are making lots of money, have access to a lot of money, and they're in positions of great power and influence, instead of accepting that as their responsibility, what they're doing is they're now saying, how dare you talk mean about the firemen? shame on you. Those firemen are out there and they're working to help you. Do you know how many of our firemen lost their homes? We had police officers that lost their homes. Shame on you. I can't. How dare you say you don't believe the firemen and the police officers? Did you see that? It's called Little Texas Two-Step. We hear it. We know it when we hear it. Or some of us just call it a big old pile of bullshit.
Phone. Get off your tablet. Go and talk to people. Talk to the people. Talk to the people born and raised here. Talk to the people who are trying to piece it together. The reason you should trust us is because this is our home. The reason you should trust us is we're the ones who suffered the loss. That's the reason you should trust us.
Agree, Jill.
Okay, I'm gonna reset the room. So here's how we're gonna move forward with the balance of time. When you are called upon and your question is asked, I'm going to insist, not request anymore, that you please allow the answer to be given. If you have a follow-up question, you're welcome to flag me and I may or may not grant that. I likely will.
It's just a teeny little question. Just a little small one. Can the mayor and the governor, can they let the journalists finish their questions first? Or does this only go for the journalists to shut up and let the mayor and the governor say whatever they want? Like, how's this going to work, ma'am?
Will, but I'm just asking for kindness and aloha like I set forward in the very beginning, and we're not really demonstrating that right now. Okay, so in good faith,
like
when you ask your question, if you have a follow-up, I will grant that, but I'm asking you guys to allow the answer to be given because right now we're cutting people off and nobody is cutting you folks off as you're asking the questions.
Did cut
okay,
off.
I'm going to go here.
My name is Miguel Almaguer with NBC News.
Aloha, Miguel.
For the chief or whoever deems it to be acceptable.
Great.
During the height of the evacuation, some evacuees said they were forced to turn around because of roadblocks or they were actually forced back towards the fire by emergency responders. What is your reaction?
So the question is around roadblocks and the impact of that as it relates to evacuation.
Appreciate the question. The only roadblock was way past West Maui, way past Napili, which Kakaloa, it's the one-way road. And we made it a one-way road so that we can get emergency vehicles in, but nowhere was that anywhere near the burn or the affected zone. And I would just say this, I've been here almost 2 years, and I consider myself a guest of the people that I'm blessed to serve.
Oh my goodness. What is that? I know what it is. It's one of those devilish Instagram influencers meddling. Paid someone to wear a fake police officer outfit, put a couple of cones out so that they could just fake the roadblock. So they could fake the police turning drivers around and sending them back into the burn zone. It's all fake. Influencers did it. That's right. Unscrupulous, conspiratorially grifty muckety mucks did it all. Certainly not John Pelletier's one of his officers.
Sure, I'm a guest and I'm the chief of police. What Maui
and I'm gonna say something.
doesn't
these people look Hawaiian. They don't look like somebody from LA coming in trying to invent a story. It's incredible. Don't call after what these people have been through, don't call them liars.
trust our people, even from other islands, coming here to tell us what's best for us. We will decide. Our people who we love and we sacrifice for, they trust us, they love us.
Okay. This picture, there's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. One of the questions I have is, why were the cars pulling up on the sidewalk up here, right? Why were the people doing this? I'm going to guess I'm going to guess because this was a roaring inferno and the heat was horrendous, would be my guess. Now, there were people, there's video, you see where these rocks are here? There were people that they first were on the rocks, but then when it got too hot, they couldn't breathe. Then they went ahead and got in the water and went further out, into the water. So it is very curious to me that the fire came from this side down toward the water. So I'm struggling a little bit to understand why everything is melted back toward where the fire came from. That's strange. And I don't quite understand why you've got this car melted so bad. The literal tires are melted into the sidewalk here. You see this? Literally melted into the sidewalk all over the place. But this car still got its paint on it. What would cause that? I don't know. Don't ask me. I have no idea what would cause such a thing. Or see the lines on the top of this car? That's some very strange. When you start on my other computer, I've got a touch screen, and so I can go down like into the smallest little square foot area and really look close. It's very strange. In the middle of all of this, there are trees where the leaves and the fronds are still green. How is that possible? I don't know. I literally don't. And I'm going to tell you this. When I first saw this, I thought, was it a seismic event? Like, was this related to, all of the volcanic activity and stuff in this area in Hawaii? Is that part of what this was? And then ultimately, after looking at a lot of photographs, I realized this was not like a sunken area. This is just the wall. This is just what the little wall looks like before you get down, to go to the beach. So this was really not anything. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's very odd. It's very strange.
And we love them. And if it means we die doing our job, so be it. Because that's what we.
And this is clearly something that melted and then hardened, even though it had been in a pool of some kind of molten, metal.
We chose. Maui trusts her own.
So crazy.
The homeless problem is getting worse. It's not getting better. Crime is getting worse.
It's just terrible.
Mahalo. I'll go over here. You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm Paul Aker, Maui Alert News. Maybe not as sexy a question as these others, but important to a lot of people on the island. Getting a lot of questions about probably the governor and the mayor, what you can do to reassure the rest of the island that the economy is not going to fail. A lot of people are really worried right now that they're getting their hours cut back and other problems related to the fire on the west side, even though they're living elsewhere.
So the question is around the economic impacts as it relates post-disaster.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. No, it's an important question because, like we saw in the pandemic, decisions we make can affect everyone across the islands. So what we're saying now is travel should not be to West Maui, but the other parts of Maui are safe. And the rest of the state, of course, is also safe. I'll be making a much broader announcement and have broader discussion about this on Friday in a statewide address. But we want people to travel to the state to the extent that they're not impacting the hard work that these extraordinary people are doing. Also, I can tell you economic potential exists in great measure going forward in this district, in this region, because there's, number one, going to be a huge lift. I signed off on a $99 million contract yesterday to provide services with some of our dear friends in the Red Cross. I'm anticipating $500 to $600 million of added investment in some of the early cleanup and then there will be billions of dollars in reconstruction. And we also intend to do a public works program to hire local people, so that work comes and stays to our local people.
I'm curious what you guys think about that answer. I was disturbed. It's not infuriating. I'm not indignant about the answer like I was, the way they were treating our journalist earlier. But I think it's tone deaf. I think the answer is it sort of reflects that he's excited about the capitalistic gains that will come. It is true that mass casualties do provide opportunity for fiscal growth, but most people have the couth not to really talk about that, right? Just kind of let it unfold. I do understand why he answered it. I do know that the reporter asked, hey, what's going to happen to people's jobs? They are 100% only a tourism, economy. So the fire affecting people going through with their their travel plans or whatever, that, people might be a bit scared. But I don't know that he had to talk about all the big contracts that he signed the day before for all the money that, people were bringing in. It just seems, it was just uncomfortable, but I don't have a problem with the way he answered it. It just bothered me a little bit. Kathy says, well, does the governor own a cleanup company? There you go. The influencers will be looking into that, I'm sure.
We have seen a decrease in the number of trips and travelers to the state as of now. We understand that. We understand the psychology of someone trying to tell their neighbors that they're going on vacation to Hawaii when they may not be able to easily distinguish, when they're talking about that, the difference between the islands. That's just a reality.
Yet again, people are so dumb, and we need our fearless leaders to keep us in line. I'm sorry, sir. People understand Hawaii. People understand Hawaii.
But we've been through this before with other disasters, and we expect people to rally on behalf of the people of Hawaii. A lot of money is going to be invested in Maui in kind of an extraordinary way through relief efforts, and that's going to help us survive.
Extraordinary way.
If I can just add to that, in the short term, because of Gov's work and FEMA and Red Cross and everyone else here, those hotel rooms that would normally have been, fitted by tourists is now going to be filled by not only our local community, but those that have come here to help us, those workers. So that will help with the economy. But of course, people can also apply for small business loans from the SBA. So we're asking, the governor is going to be having more folks come here to help us rebuild, and that's going to require a lot of work with construction companies, contractors, and folks like that. So we expect that will all happen.
Okay, we'll go over here. One question, name and news organization, please.
I work for PW Germany. My question is to the governor. You said there are federal laws that allow for people to buy properties, and right now I've been talking to a lot of locals who have lost their homes, and they are not at a very vulnerable position, so they are trying to figure out what to do. Some are leaving, and some are reporting that they are receiving calls from people who claim to be realtors and want to purchase a land. Are you aware of this information? How are you handling? Do you have a list of people who are in this situation, and how do you? What is your plan to prevent that from happening?
So the question is around clarifying the lands lost during the devastation and predatory practices.
That's a very good question. So in order to prevent people from taking advantage and acting in a predatory way toward our local people, I've asked the Attorney General to not allow transactions. She's working out the legality of that in this emergency phase. It is difficult based on the national laws, but we do have a lot of capacity. First and foremost, a clear message from me that I will not be authorizing any building permits or capacity on this land if there's predatory behavior. I view predatory behavior as illegal. in this circumstance, and we will prosecute people to the full extent of the law if they misrepresent what they're doing, which is to try to take land from people who are vulnerable and facing severe economic consequences. That's one. Two, we have had, yes, reports of people who are not actually even in the realty industry reaching out, and that is unacceptable to us. So, forgive me. So what we're doing about that is we reached out to the Realtors Association to help support us and prevent anyone from coming into this market and I guess participating in transactions. But most importantly, I would like to see a long-term moratorium specifically on sale of lands if it's not going to benefit local people for other local people. We will bring resources here from outside. There always is going to be investment in Hawaii, but we don't want to see land bought up. And so what I also will do is put together a group of people who are interested in financially supporting all of our recovery mission, not to buy land up and to hold it, but simply to secure where we are as a community. And I do believe that there are both affluent people and regular working people who are contributing to that kind of a mission, to keep the land in local people's hands. I'd say this, we don't even yet know what the philosophy of the Maui people who have been affected would be as to what Lahaina should look like. That is a decision that has to be made as a community.
Back. They want to
So
rebuild
we've
their
begun
houses.
to put together individuals that would like to contribute to that discussion. As you heard earlier, Mayor Bisson is going to be out actually having talk story with people in the community. It's very important for us as first a county and then as a state to know what should happen with Lahaina, which has been in many ways one of the picos of our state for generations. We, though, in my office, will work to block any of those kind of predatory transactions.
We'll join the governor on that.
I'm going to go here. Christina, name and news organization, please.
The FEMA director said that he does not regret not activating the sirens. Going forward, if there are intense fires threatening a residential area on any island, will county and state officials consider activating the siren system for fire?
The question is around siren activation going forward in similar disasters.
We will review the process, but once again, as I've said, most of our sirens are on the coastline. So if there is a fire occurring inland, the sirens will be of no use. You have to also remember that that day in Lahaina, it's an outdoor siren. So a lot of people who are indoors, air conditioning on, whatever the case may be, they're not going to hear the siren. Plus, the winds were very gusty and everything. I heard it was very loud. And so they wouldn't have heard the sirens. And so we believe that the most effective way of getting the message out to the public was through WEA and EAS, and that's the method we used.
Sure, Christina, thank you for asking.
Governor Griff said as well, your thoughts on whether sirens should be used in fires going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, we're performing a comprehensive review to find out what the safest and most effective science-based way it is to protect people. There are a lot of different geographies across our country. Some use sirens, some don't. It is true that when I first moved to Hawaii, people told me if you hear a siren, it's a tsunami and go to high ground. I'm just saying as an individual, when I came here as a doctor, that was made very clear to me when I lived on Black Sand Beach in Punaluu. I was there again when I was a doc, not before I was, long before I was a legislator or governor. And I experienced large wildfires that were up Mauka. It happens very frequently in Ka'u. And in those cases, had a siren gone off, I would have been expecting a tsunami to come. That's what our mentality was. But we will find best practices and give updated information. There's going to be a lot of large changes that we hope to do. We've been contacted, for example, by the Department of Energy, and they've asked what we would like to do going forward. What we'd like to do is we'd like to remove many of the barriers that we have to safety. We'd like to get power lines underground. We intend to invest very heavily on that in recovery. We'd like to have more satellite capacity all across the state because with temperatures of 1,000 degrees moving 60 miles an hour, it took out a lot of our infrastructure, and that made it very difficult. Obviously, the review is important. We always want to study things. Our administration has been relatively new, and we're reviewing reports. Some said that we had high risks. Others said we have very low risks. It's obvious that catastrophe can occur.
The final question will go back to Maui, ending with Akaku.
Thank you. Chief of Jim Johnson with Akaku, and thank you. I have been with the media for some time, and I'm glad to say that it has been on Maui and in Honolulu. The flavor of a lot of the media, especially from other places, is about sensationalism rather than humanity. And I have not heard, except on social media, the community grumbling about the bad job that was done.
I don't think that virtue signaler has been watching social media, because there's been a lot of people that have put up their own videos of their experience. They recorded themselves in the car trying to get away, what they were seeing, what they were experiencing. So it's a little bit silly for them to keep saying, we're going to blame the online people. They're the ones that caused all the trouble. That's just laughable. It's just funny, that they could think that that's a good defense, I suppose. So how am I on time? 3 hours. My God. We've been here all day, peeps. All right.
Is falling upon Hawaiian Electric, who knew as early as 4 years ago that there was a risk of fire due to their own negligence in maintaining power lines, but they did nothing. Hawaiian Electric, who is owned by Vanguard and BlackRock, has been shifting their focus to clean energy. And in order to build back better, the old system must first be destroyed. And so the power was left on to feed the flames. The warning system on Maui is one of the most advanced and maintained warning systems on Earth. Residents are accustomed to monthly tests, but on the day of the fire...
This is CBS News, Philadelphia. Not an Instagram influencer, okay? It's a reputable news agency.
No sirens went off. There were no warnings. The director in charge of this warning system was at a FEMA disaster seminar in Oahu as the fires were devastating the people of Maui.
According to documents obtained by H&N Investigates, Ndaya was in Waikiki at the Alohalani Resort, attending what was scheduled to be a 3-day FEMA disaster preparedness seminar called the Pacific Partnership Meeting.
That, my friends, is called irony.
A receipt from the hotel shows Ndaya checked in last Monday, a day before the fire started. That same receipt lists a departure date of Wednesday, August 9th, the morning after flames reduced Lahaina town to ash. According to Tuesday's agenda, the day wrapped up with a networking reception at the hotel's Longboard Club from 5 to 7 that evening. At the same time, people were running for their lives, trying to escape flames that engulfed the town.
When asked if he regretted not sounding the alarm, he said no, because he was worried that the people would run into the fire.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Mauka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
But instead, they burned to death at home, including an untold number of children who were home alone.
This is so interesting to me. It seems that there's been a lot of focus on children. They seem to be anticipating a lot of kids gone. The school was out. They called school out. Many parents went on to work, and the kids were at home by themselves. Wouldn't have known how to respond.
Alone that morning because of a school cancellation. The water wasn't on. Fire hydrants were dry. and the deputy director of water resources.
This is the young man. Water is our friend. In fact, it's like a god. We should worship it and we should treat it fairly. That's why the water got turned off, because they used up too much of it fighting the fires that morning. He literally turned off water, and they needed special permission to turn it back on from the EPA. You can't make this up. They literally chose water over human beings.
Resource Management, who was named an Obama Foundation leader, refused to release water for the West Maui fires until it was too late. He
says the standoff with wildfires raging West Maui on August 8th, the state water official delayed the release of water that landowners wanted to help protect their property from fires. The water standoff played out over much of the day, and the water did not come until too late. It didn't really come at all. And more important, remember what I said earlier? There was a fire earlier that morning near Lahaina, and they said it is under control. They didn't say it's out. They didn't say they put the fire out. They said they got it under control. And then the water went away. And that fire turned into the monster that killed all those
fires until it was too late. He says that in order to share water, Hawaiians need to discuss equity.
So I'm going to go back here and give you guys an opportunity to write down his name so you can find out about him, read about him. He has some of the most unusual philosophies related to water and people. It is bizarre that we've got someone in charge of water who believes that water should be valued more than the human beings that it could help. And they're on an island. It's very odd. It's very odd.
Really, my motto is always like, let water connect us and not divide us. Like we can share it.
Oh, that's so deep. Let water connect us and not divide us. You were on an island, sir.
But it requires true conversations about equity.
Without any warnings and without any water, the people tried to flee, but they were stopped by the police, who had orders to keep people from escaping.
I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm under orders to keep them here." And I said, "The fire is right around Safeway. It's going to hit Front Street. You know, these people got to get out of here." And he said, "I'm following orders."
No way.
And I just kept walking. And well, maybe he knows something I don't.
The Maui chief of police was the incident officer at one of the biggest cover-up operations in U.S. history, the 2000.
Okay, I'm gonna take issue with this. I don't know that it was a cover-up operation. I don't know. I would never say that. I don't know. I don't believe it. Let me put it that way. I don't believe it. But I think it's strange. I think it's strange that this guy was in charge for the mass casualty event in Las Vegas, and now irony.
Cover-up operations in U.S. history, the 2017 Las Vegas.
No comment.
No comment right now, guys.
They just don't like to talk about it, do they? They just don't like to talk about it, but they do like to chastise you and tell you that you're a very bad person to have the audacity to question them when they say no comment.
Comment? Talking to the chief, sir. Yeah. Why doesn't he want to speak to the people? Only to a camera.
Residents are not allowed to leave unless they get a permission slip from the federal government. But the government recently decided.
That's so cute. It's so cute that we Americans now need a permission slip, like a little hall pass, to be able to get out of this absolutely ravaged community. The government's going to give you a little piece of paper and say, okay, if you want to go to the east side of the island, you can. We decided to be okay, right? It's kind of humiliating, demeaning, infantilizing. Let's listen to that again. It's kind of interesting.
To shut that option down. While the fires burned, a book was published about the entire event. The book blamed climate change and was written by a Dr. Miles Stones.
You know, a milestone. Now, let me tell you this. So supposedly this is the book 1729? Oh, not 1709. I tried to look it up. I was going to buy it out of curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat, don't you know? So let me show you what I found. I found the Fire and Fury book, but it's turned into a podcast, and it's being read by Peter the Reader. And I don't know if there's no more books. Maybe they sold out. Is that, but what, you know, usually if they have one that's sold out, it'll still show the book, right? Maui and the Secret of Fire. Fire and Fury, 35 years of eruptions on Kauai. Fire and Fury is drunk. Maybe it wasn't real? Reading and Reacting to Fire and Fury, the story of the 2023 Maui fire and its implications for global climate change. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, peeps. I'm going to get all signed in, okay? I have to get me an account. I'm gonna get it all signed in, and then I'm gonna listen to it. And if it's interesting, if there's something curious about it, then I'll come back and do more. As of right now, it is 3 hours and 13 minutes, and well, just rolled over. So 3 hours and 13 minutes, almost 3 hours, 13 minutes, 13 seconds. That's the devil at work. I think I'm gonna end this live because I really do need to go do something. I've been sitting on my bottom for almost 4 hours. So I gotta get up and get my old bones moving. What do you guys think? If you did, hey Hounds, welcome. Good to see you again. Hi Jen Madison. Hey Cinnamon Hot, the devil in a blue suit. What about the blue cars that didn't burn, Cinnamon? Make sense of that. How can that be? Moonlight View, welcome. Good to see you. All right. So, peeps, what do you think about this? You think I'm going to be in trouble? Do you think I'm going to think a lot of people are going to be angry with me? I'll drop some info in comments. Thank you, Hounds. I appreciate that. We have already coined ourselves as extremists. I'm not an extreme. In fact, I feel like I'm a woman without a country. Do you know what I mean? Because I just don't fit in anywhere anymore. Things have just gotten so weirdly polarized. I don't even know. I don't mind saying right, Cinnamon. I know. My bumper sticker is, it's going to say elect Tulsi Gabbard. Ben Carson was my previous candidate that I liked. I just think we need to start electing people with an education. I really think we'd be better off if we elected people that were smart. I'm probably going to be in trouble for saying that. But I think we should quit trying to elect like people we like, personality. And I think we should really look and see, are these people that have had a history of being rational, and were they responsible with the responsibility that their positions provided them? And, I think we could do better, but that's just me. It's, obviously I'm not picking good candidates because my candidates don't ever win. But Joe Manchin, Joe Manchin gets a lot of hate because some people accuse him of like being a fence rider. I don't think so. I think he is a product of his community. And if you are in that area of the country, it is predominantly Democrat. But he recognizes that the people that would vote for him and put him into office are not the same people that would be the business owners, and the economy requires, certain policies and stuff. So I'm not sure that he rides the fence as much as he's just trying to do right by his community. I do think that. Jen Madison, I'm going to come sit on your side of the track. I am with you. I'm ready to unregister to vote too. It's just gotten, it's bad. It's really bad. If I wanted entertainment, I'd go watch the Astros play. Sincerely, I don't think that politics should be like a high school sports rivalry. It shouldn't. We're seeing, we need people in office that are serious, and they're intelligent, and they're well educated, and they're healthy. Because the decisions that they make are going to influence the people at the top that are going to affect our lives. So don't forget the popcorn. Oh, no, big ups. Joe Manchin is no longer considered a moderate. He is a radical right winger. People have gone crazy. Not all people. Please don't think I'm talking about everybody. It's just, we're in a weird place. It's a weird place. And I don't want to participate anymore. I'm with Jen. I've reached the point that my candidates are no one ever likes my candidates. But Ben Carson was my candidate, and now I really like Tulsi Gabbard. So. That's where I would be, big ups. I'd be hiding out in the basement. Somebody call Tulsi. All I can say is thank God I'm not politics. It's a mess. All right, y'all. Bring your brain. It's Mayus. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. 3 hours. Y'all are troopers. And I really appreciate y'all putting up with my yelling and my ranting. I didn't rant. I had a rant. I apologize. Maybe not. All right. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything you do. Please hit the thumbs up when you leave. Leave comments under the video. If you want to be mad at me and yell at me, do it under the video. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. It helps the algorithm see my channel and promote it to others. Y'all have a nice day.